Hello, party people.
I was gonna say good morning, party people.
Good morning, party people. Sorry, I don't have enough screens to talk and then put us on screen while also reading this article that I'm supposed to not be reading. Hello, everyone. Ray wasn't here
Gang's
first.
all here.
The gang's
Thanks,
all
Ray.
here. Motorsport.com did a survey with Formula One. It's a fan survey they do every couple of years, like 5 years, every couple, something like that.
They do this every year.
Do they?
Yeah.
The last survey they did was. Am I thinking about a different survey?
I swear to God, they do the global survey every year.
Oh man. There was another survey I keep referencing that talks about F1 esports, and then I haven't seen a survey after that. Maybe because it's 75 years, so they're really like pushing this one, and I can find it really easily.
Probably.
Anyway, I would like to denote as data people, as a data person for sure, it was 100,000 people that filled out the survey, or around 100,000 people, they're saying. And that is not a good sample. I mean, that is a decent. Okay, I shouldn't say it's not a good sample size. That's an extreme. It's a fine sample size.
Sucks.
It fucking blows. We cannot make sweeping things about this sample size, considering the number of fans there are globally in the world. 100,000 people is not a lot. It's good, and this is fun, like little data points that maybe you can extract, check in, maybe double click into, ask more questions about it on race weekends. But you cannot take everything as gospel.
This is not an example of what every single F1 fan around the world thinks.
Oh God, the women derogatory about. Hi, H-Cats. Hello.
Hi, Hugh.
Hi, Hugh. Perry, thank you so much for the 24 freaking months. 2 years of this nonsense? Where has the time gone? You spent it in here, buddy. Save yourself now. How's everyone doing? Elizabeth, how's your weekend? How's your week since the last time we've seen you?
My week? I think it was fine. I just did a lot of writing, and I don't remember doing much else other than that. I put some laundry away yesterday. I was really proud of myself.
It's one thing to like wash and dry it, and it's another thing for me to bring it upstairs, and then it's another thing for me to fold it. If I do all of that in like a day and a couple of hours, I got my shit together.
I also did all of the bed sheets over the weekend, so I was cooking. Took a good nap. Really a solid weekend, I think.
On page 36 of the survey, it says the importance of social media. Global respondents are split by age on social media's role in fandom, as in how important is social media, X, Instagram, TikTok, etc., in your connection to Formula One. Under the age of 18, 68% said very important, and 27% somewhat important. So 68, and then we go to ages 18 to 24, 66, 27. 25 to 34 is 46, 30, which is still pretty good. That's still in the 76%. Like they're still interested in it. You get to 65 plus, and 72% say not important. And I was like, can they even get on social media? Is the real question. Like these surveys don't give you the asterisks of like, do I know how to get there? Did I know these?
I like it. I'm just in my head picturing that it was like 200 people in this age bracket that responded to it. And it was like the 200 people who don't know anything about, like they use Facebook, but they get got by all the AI posts that are on there now. This is what I'm picturing as the responses.
I was also laughing with Elizabeth right before we went live. They define, emerging versus legacy fan profiles. Legacy and emerging as surveyed fans coexist within the same ecosystem and are equally intent on their commitment to long-term fandom. Emerging fans say new surveyed fans are more likely to be female, under the age of 35, and in emerging markets from the United States, India, and Southeast Asia.
Nice.
Sweet. Legacy fans. Legacy fans skew older, male, and more concentrated in Europe. No fucking shit.
I would have never guessed.
I would have never guessed that these 65 plus year old farts who are answering that they don't care about social media. I sound completely ageist right now. You guys are important, totally. Are male, old, and European.
I love talking to a guy who's been a fan of motorsport for like 50 years. They get to a point, a lot of the older guys are like, don't quite understand that women like motorsport. But then when you say it, they're like, okay, you've passed our test. Now let me tell you everything I know about everything. Let me tell you about the time I met Jim Clark. Let me tell you about the time that I went here and did this. It's a freaking blast. I think there's like legit shout out to y'all. It makes my day.
Let me put this in the chat. This one's also really interesting. Pericles, thank you so much for the 29 freaking months. Serena, thank you so much for the 3. Welcome on into Vandalay Nisters, everyone. Serena, Pericles, Parrot, appreciate you coming back. Content format. So they're talking about social media. So it says, so has content format popular with and purpose. So content format, social media, popular with Gen Z, women, newer fans. Purpose, discovery, highlights, personality. Cool. Blogs and articles, usually age 45 plus. Legacy fans, context, commentary, analysis. YouTube and Twitch, Gen Z, new fan, video immersion, watch-alongs, sim racing. Podcast, and I love they did this. Brazil.
Come to Brazil.
Only Brazilians listen to podcasts about Formula One, apparently. Deeper engagement analysis. This is Brazil, USA, women. So if you're a Brazilian in the United States and a woman, you love podcast.
What if I'm all three?
I just love that the only time they called out countries was in podcast. Everyone else's age bracket and demographic and like gender, they're Brazil. Brazil loves podcast. What else?
I also like, this is just the grammar part of me, but popular with under social media is new fans, plural. Podcasts popular with, YouTube and Twitch popular with new fan. So
one guy.
Social media is popular with multiple new fans, but YouTube and Twitch only with one. Only one new fan.
All right, here's the rough part. Only 27% of surveyed fans listen to F1 podcasts. That's not a lot. R.I.P. R.I.P. us. What are we doing, Elizabeth? But we are in the Twitch at the same time as the YouTube, so I feel like this counts as more.
Gotta be.
Sim racing's popular. That makes sense. 2 of the strongest merch markets globally are United States and Japan.
I can see it.
Content behaviors are monolithic. That makes sense. Oh, I also like to denote in the earlier part of the survey, they also said that they made it to a point to emphasize. They wrote, what did they say? Legacy media isn't dead. People engage with blogs, newspapers, and whatever. I was like, okay, simmer down, guys. I get it. You're motorsport.com. You're a publication. You're important too.
We matter.
We matter. I get it. Countries like Brazil, Italy, Netherlands remind us that the core product remains potent, anchoring engagement in race day rituals while expanding with ecosystem events, blah, 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 blah. Talk about F1, the movie in here. Literally suck my dick on that one. I just cannot. I am so done with hearing about this. I do no longer want to talk about this movie. I mean, I do for our podcast and this, but like, I'm done. We've pushed it to our limits. We have shown it on shitty CGI in the Canadian Grand Prix. It's above the podium in the Austrian Grand Prix, and they made sure to show that, even though the shot was objectively just like a bad, like I didn't need to see that. And it's everywhere. I get it.
So you don't want the rant that I wrote yesterday for my Deadly Passions Terrible Joys Substack and have yet to decide if I actually want to publish.
I do. I do want to listen to only what you have to say and nobody else, honestly. Sorry, I'm still scrolling through the survey. Oh my God, there's so many pages.
I know, there's 100 something. They wrote a novel for us.
It says nearly half of F1's global respondents. So just FYI, this is, again, 100K people. So have attended an F1 race.
Me.
I would take that with like an asterisk. In key markets like the United States, intent to attend far exceeds current attendance, underscoring untapped opportunity. Yeah, make it fucking affordable. Fuck you.
I was gonna say.
Are you fucking serious? I wonder how we can get these people to attend the race. I don't know. Maybe
if tickets weren't $50,000.
Fuck off. Honestly, untapped opportunity. Yeah, my bank account away from your fucking opportunity. Get out of here. F off, dude. Ugh. I can't. Oh, I'm hydrating. Sorry, Mike. I see you. I put the link in the chat. You do have to like put your email so they can like track who's downloading this stuff, but don't feed the peasants. Oh God. This is interesting. Off-track engagement is growing, and I do like that. And I think we talked about it before. 1 in 4 fans attending non-race events, over half of non-participants express interest. There's clear mandate to scale these offerings, and I agree, because we can't afford going to the racetrack. It is expensive, especially if you're a family of 4. My family of 6 went. By me, my dad, my mom, my sister-in-law, my brother, and my significant other at the time all went to the Montreal GP, and it cost a shit ton of money. Don't get me wrong. This was before Drive This Ride. This was years ago. 2017, I think we went to Montreal. That was expensive then. And I can't imagine now, especially now if you want to stay in the United States, if you don't want to travel, whatever it is, it's a lot. So it makes sense that they want to have off-track engagement with either the F1 Vegas thing that I forgot what they call it, with the go-karting, the F1 arcades and stuff that they have.
Yeah.
In Vegas,
I
where they had all the
wonder,
fan zones on the strip, was really fun.
are they counting like watch parties or watch-alongs and stuff in that as well? Because I know
That'd be
that
good.
that's been a really big, like, just folks showing up at a bar at 7 a.m. hanging out together.
Yeah, that'd be a really good one. Have they ever heard of affordability? Absolutely not.
No. They think it is affordable. That's the problem.
Yeah, they're making it sound like this is for us. When F1 obviously got rid of Imola because it's not making enough money as it would in another place. Like, Imola's good racing, but they can obviously make more money in a different race from merch, the fans, tickets, etc. Somewhere else. So, like, don't lie to me and be like, oh yeah, this is for fans. It's like, get out of here. Get out of town.
Shoe fly.
Shoo fly. Fandom's become impersonal. Well, that's what fandom is. Sponsorships. Ooh. Enthusiasm is highest among fans in Asia Pacific and the Americas, saying sponsorship plays a positive role in the sport, mirroring global sentiment. I'm pretty sure they use the rules of supply and demand. That makes sense. Supply and demand. I
I
would
like
like.
that they have a whole section for U.S. highlights. That's so fun.
Oh yeah. Oh,
We
interesting.
matter.
They want our. Oh, I think because motorsport.com obviously is the
Yeah.
United States, but also they just want our money. They want our money. Sorry, this is still not the
Considered a
podcast.
secondary market for the sport, the U.S. has emerged as one of F1's most promising engines of fan growth, cultural relevance, and commercial potential. We got them dollar bills, baby.
Yeah, exactly. That's all they want from me. Where's my wallet? You guys can just take my credit card number now.
Do you want access to my bank account? I'll give you my routing number.
When next time I log into F1 TV, yeah, they'll ask for account number, routing number, social security number, and they'll be like, "Thank you so much, appreciate it." This one's interesting. So, as someone who has a scientific degree or a degree in a science field, there was a whole 2 classes I had to take on surveys and exactly how you ask questions because they can perform biases, and then as well as how you show results because you can always skew results, right? When we talk about, for example, car insurance is a very popular one. They say 85% of accidents, or like 90, something like that, 85 to 90% of accidents happen near your home. Little do you know that you do 95% of your driving within 5 to 10 miles of your house. So that makes sense. You can only have car accidents where you have the car and other cars interacting. So like that's not like a skewed statistic, but that's like a way to manipulate it to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta be careful when driving around. I totaled my car 100 feet from my driveway. See,
Shandi, no.
Shandi just contributing to the statistic, which was helpful because I had to run inside my house and get my insurance card. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for the 40 freaking months. This is the longest relationship I ever had. Well, it's been an honor, honestly.
You're welcome.
Chicago GP says, I think I filled out this survey on the F1 fan voice site. I love that. American surveyed fans are 2 times more likely to follow a driver over a team, according to their survey results. Only 16,000
Interesting.
Americans surveyed, by
Yeah.
the way. It's not a lot,
But
but
still.
that is interesting. When are we ranting about the movie? After I go through this survey, which is almost done. Emotional investment is interesting. Oh, the reason I started that whole rant, it says 89% of U.S. respondents say they are more emotionally invested in an outcome in an F1 race. This jumps to 95% among new fans, following in less than a year. I guess, like, I just don't know what that, like, that's a broad sentence. Like, what does it mean emotionally invested? If when I don't stream qualifying, am I watching it on my phone and just seeing who got P1? Like, yeah. Does that mean I'm emotionally invested? Do I care? I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. And which is emotion. Like, I just like don't know how they're defining an emotional invested.
It's a good question. I wish I could go back and look at the questions that they asked to see where these, like, what the relevant thing is. Chris, mute your mic.
Most US fans support multiple drivers and teams, but younger fans are much more likely to stick to a single favorite. Oh, interesting. Oh. I say interesting, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's fine.
Yeah.
Apparently 65 plus, 68% says they support multiple teams and drivers, which is the most out of any demographic 65 plus, which is crazy.
Pick a favorite. Come on.
You're not a real fan. Just
Commit
kidding.
to something for once in your life.
55% of fans ages 18 to 24 discuss F1 in online communities. Overall, 39% of Americans. This makes sense. Listening to racing podcasts, learning about drivers' social media, sim racing. Sim racing is not as much as I think it is. 43% of U.S. respondents regularly rely on YouTube, Twitch for their F1 content. Let's fucking go. That's us, baby.
That's awesome.
Welcome, everyone. U.S. fans regularly rely on YouTube and Twitch for their F1 content, with younger audiences more likely to regularly consume content on these platforms. Wow. What time is this? Oh, no. I've blocked Elizabeth's face. We are 16 minutes in the podcast. That's becoming a clip. Listen to our podcast. Watch our Twitch show. We love you. Consume our voices. U.S. fans are more likely than their global peers to consume F1 in multiple formats: social for discovery, video and streaming for access and highlights, podcasts and blogs for context depth. 2/3. Oh, here's the issue. 2/3, 66% of U.S. respondents feel that having a race hosted in the United States positively impacts their interest in the sport.
I wonder why.
R.I.P. everyone who hates Miami, Vegas, and Austin. Here we go. Geographic access with 3 Grand Prix events in the United States. This is still the U.S. Spotlight page, by the way. We're like pages deep in just the United States. With 3 Grand Prix events in the United States, access has expanded dramatically. The time zone friendly scheduling and variety of host cities has helped deepen fan connection across the coast and demographics. Oh, 40% of U.S. respondents say they are interested in attending non-race F1 events such as meetups, watch parties, or F1 arcade experiences.
It's fun.
Or you can watch it right here.
You guys want to come hang out with me?
I feel like organizing people into a bar is a lot more effort than me telling people to join my Twitch or YouTube stream.
That is very true.
Because there's usually a minimum you got to hit with the bar and reserve seats, and they got to be up early depending what coast you're on.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of...
And then you got to negotiate, and then there's always the off chance that they don't want to put sound on or some shit for you.
In addition to Formula One, the other motor racing ranks number 2 for the sports they regularly follow, followed by American football. See, this is where we're going to think about data. Here we go. Here's my nerd coming out. So it says, again, 65% of 2/3 of the U.S. respondents find F1 more exciting than other motorsports such as NASCAR, IndyCar. Number 2, again, in addition to F1, other motorsport racing ranks number 2, and then football is number 3. And then it says 44% find F1 more exciting than any other sport they watch. Okay. The way you put the survey in motorsport.com, no fucking shit. Like, go to an NFL game and ask the same questions. Let me know what you get.
Exactly. Exactly.
Go to a baseball game and let me know what you say. Mm-hmm. That's little. And then the answer says thank you.
Girl, I love to extrapolate.
I love extrapolating. That was a little too much. That was a little too far. Or that was a little too much. All right, sorry, I'm done through the survey. I was just really nosy about everything. Time zone friendly. How midnight start friendly for domestic fans? People in Vegas don't go to bed till later.
Ever.
You also capture the Asian market, which they mention is a big deal. Although technically Sunday morning, it's true. Ash, I want to eat the rich. Capitalism demands it. Consume. Yeah, we're working on it. All right, Elizabeth, shall we actually start the pod?
I think we should start the pod. Let's start this bad boy.
Let's start this bad boy. Welcome to the Elizabeth and Ash show, where we talk about all things motorsport. Let's jump into some rapid fire news. Elizabeth, take it away.
So Austria got re-signed on the F1 calendar until 2041. This is important. If you've noticed recently, F1 has been scooping up as many long-term contract deals as it humanly possibly can. They are getting as much money for these events as possible and securing long-term deals while they can charge top dollar because the sport is bigger than it has ever been before. There are rumors that are not really substantiated at this moment, but talks within the paddock that perhaps Liberty Media is looking to sell Formula One management. Perhaps we could see some changes in the future on that regard. And they're just trying to get as much money as they can now. I'm glad because I like Austria. I think it's a great track. I went in 2015. The fans are absolutely feral. I had a blast, and I have wished to go back ever since.
I love feral fans. We know F1 just generally has commitment issues. When the term contract comes in Formula 1, whether it's drivers or whatnot, though they have a contract, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to be there until 2041.
That is correct. And it also does not guarantee that it is a every year contract. I believe Austria is going to be every year, but there are some certain events where that has been unclear. So they've extended the contract through to a certain year, but then that contract has changed to say that it is every other year. They're talking about that more often, because there are way more events that are, people are interested. They want to expand their reach to other audiences in other countries. And the Formula One Concord agreement mandates that we have a maximum of 24 races. So we are at that cap, which means if we want more events in more places, we have to start rotating events more regularly. So there are some events where they've signed a contract and we're not quite sure if it's every year or not.
I didn't realize it was in the Concord Agreement that we have to have 24 races.
Well, it's as maximum. You
Oh,
cannot
maximum.
exceed, yeah, sorry,
Understood.
you cannot
Got it,
exceed
got it.
24. So we've hit the cap of how many they're allowed to have in a year. And so if you want to add something in a different country, you can't have 25.
Congratulations, Austria.
Hell yeah, brother. If
Sorry.
you've never been, go.
Sorry, Imola, for our next point. New Concord Agreement coming with more races. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. They're like, let me just extrapolate as much as possible. Consume.
Don't worry about it. We're doing NASCAR now.
F1 2026 calendar was officially revealed yesterday. The FIA posted the full thing. There'll be 3 tests. Test number 1 is going to be a private test. No press, no media, just vibes and the car, which makes sense if we remember when the hybrid testing happened. They didn't get a lot of driving actually in the first couple tests because they gotta iron some shit out, especially the new regulations. So it'll be interesting to see the results in test 2 and in test 3. We saw some questions that were asked and people confused why, for example, one of the races, Baku, is on a Saturday. They do have a holiday that happens to fall on a Sunday next year. So the race is just going to be on Saturday, which makes sense. And I'm surprised people thought it was a big... People just don't like change, and which is why I have, again, a job in corporate America as a change manager and communications manager. That's besides the point.
Ooh.
Saturday is really not that big of a deal. Sometimes the reactions I see, I just have to remember this is the vocal minority.
Yes. Again, I would like you all to refer back to F1 history because the Saturday races, they happened. Practice used to start sometimes on Wednesday. Like, they used to just take a day off on Saturday because it was a day off on Saturday because they were French or whatever and they just didn't want to work on a Saturday. These are this just happens. It's fine. Everyone, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world. Canada does officially conflict with the Indy 500, which we talked about in length, but it's also unfortunate. The next, so for the past 3 weeks, we've had Le Mans, Nürburgring, and Spa 24. And sports car racing people complain. And if you're an F1, you may not know this. F1 took the original date of the Spa 24. Therefore, Spa 24 had to move, which created this chain reaction of the other 24-hour races also moving in accordance because F1 just doesn't give a shit about other sports, which whatever. And then like Watkins Glen had to move and like all this other stuff because they try to work together because a lot of people race in different series in sports car racing. So there are drivers who race 3 24-hour races in 3 weekends in a row because of this.
Insane.
Nürburgring is now moving to May, which is going to be between Miami and Canada, which is like kind of nice.
Is it going to be snowing there in May?
Well, people are concerned that Canada, now that it's moved, is going to be like the weather's going to be absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Along with Miami's fine. It's just the rain is always a thing.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to
Go
cut
ahead.
you off here and propose a girls' trip. Girls' trip.
Excuse me, everyone. We're a little busy right now. We're scheduling 2026 girls trips. Please,
Girls'
Elizabeth.
trip to the Nürburgring 24 because that's my birthday weekend. I think that would be so much fun. You can also bring Taylor. Chris will be there.
Perfect. They can go off
Do a whole
together and
Yeah,
do
they
their
can,
and
they
do
can
whatever.
hang out.
Which is probably going to be on silence together in the same room. That's fine. Chad, do you second the motion for a girls' trip to the Nürburgring 24?
Germany in this economy. I have a friend who lives next to the track, has a B&B next to the track. Her family owns it. So I think we're going to get a good deal.
If you agree with this, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, Chad has to also second. Why does Chad say nay? Do you not want to go to Germany? I'll use my Polish passport. You guys can come hang with me. It's fine.
Yeah. I'll smuggle you in.
Aha. Seconded. Forrest says aye. Thank you so much, everyone. We can all just stay with Misha and Jimmy. Perfect. That sounds
Easy
so
peasy.
fun. Wait, I'm going to write that down so I don't forget to tell Taylor that we're going to Germany.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw! That's not a selling tactic. Why does Chap hate Germany? What is happening?
I mean, crossing the border right now, not a lot of fun.
No, coming back in is not a lot of fun.
That's the problem. Yeah. What if they send him to El Salvador?
We'll
we went to
burn that
Germany.
bridge when we get there. I mean, Chap,
I'll
just
be
bring
burning a lot of bridges.
just
then.
we all need to bring burner phones. We'll prepare for this. This is like a year in advance. I think
We
we're
got
ready.
this.
We got
no
this.
photos of JD Vance on your cellular devices, please.
Fuck me, I got a lot of memes. Barcelona does conflict with Le Mans as well, which is going to be interesting. And then again, TBD on Spa, because they originally moved their date because the track needs a lot of time to configure for between Spa 24 and Formula One, because Formula One obviously needs better catch fences and other securities and other stuff on the track for Formula One to be safe. FIA Grade 1 circuit. The track needs time to do that. So because it is moved, we will see what happens if Spa 24 stays at its original date. At Spa 24 this past weekend, they do a annual talking about SRO, which is the series that leads Spa 24. And supposedly, Stefan Rattel, which SRO stands for Stefan Rattel Organization, said in the annual press conference that F1 keeps fucking them and they want the 24 back at the end of July. Stefan Rattel is annoyed with Formula One and constantly doing this. My next favorite thing is that Madrid is TBD due to FIA homologation. And
Well, it's 'cause
rumors
it's
that it
not
may
built
not
yet.
be. It's not built yet, and it may not. We're not saying that it's not going to happen. We're saying that they are currently a little behind schedule, and some people are worried, but we're pushing through it.
They built Monza in like 90 days, so I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, but no one wants to work anymore, Elizabeth.
It's true. What can you do? Can't use just like cheap labor and pay people 35 cents to make your stuff now.
MotoGP levels of canceling a race because the track wasn't built. Really. We'll see. Therefore, Spain will have
I
two
hope
races.
we get I hope we get a Miami Formula E moment where they turn up and it's not done. And they have to postpone Friday practice and just race on Saturday.
Stewart says siesta cancel, get to work, bozos. No, I love a siesta. I need that to happen in my 9 to 5. Yeah, so Spain will have two races next year. In Barcelona and Madrid, as long as Madrid isn't delayed to, or something, whatever. Which brings up the point of people getting mad about Imola no longer being on the thing. The issue is when I see people are mad that Imola is not there. Great opinion. I agree. That's fine. Then they add in their same exact sentence that the United States should not have 3 GPs, comma, you said countries were not allowed to have 2 GPs. Now, the problem is with that statement, we'll get to that. The problem is when I talk to people about Formula One, half of their sentences are correct and half of them are wrong. So I can't be like, you're wrong, you're right. There's a gray area that we never like to talk about in Formula One, okay? F1 never said you cannot have 2 races in a country. Mm-hmm. They said it's difficult to have 2 races in a country because so many countries want an F1 race. Mm-hmm. That's all they said. Dominicali said it's difficult to have 2 races in one country because other countries want F1 races. There's such a high demand. Mm-hmm. Next, I understand a lot of people don't like the US races. That's fine. But do not blame the United States. Okay? Blame F1. I hate that like the shift of blame is on like America. Like I fucking did something over here. Dominicali, F1 just wants our money. And we just happen to give it all the time. Whether it's merch sales, as the survey showed, whatever it is. We will buy the absurd tickets, apparently. Corporations are here, right? We have the Williams hedge fund, whatever that owns them, is based here. And everyone, all their clients. We got Google over here, UPS, FedEx, whatever people, Jack Daniels, etc. Amex, Marriott Bonvoy, all the companies that are a lot of the companies.
Formula One has also made the investment into Las Vegas in and of itself. So I hate to break it to you, but like they picked the United States as a growth point.
Unfortunately for all of us, the United States will be here for a bit as a landmass and also as in the F1 calendar. So don't blame like the United States of America as in our citizens all did something to you to get rid of Imola. F1, this is F1's fault. And I need you to start blaming F1 because they want more money. They know they can get more money from United States and extract it all than Imola. And don't forget that Spain also has 2 races. Why is no one blaming the Spaniards? It's the America's fault for 3 races, but Spain is fine with 2. Okay, simmer down, everyone.
Yeah.
Your hate of the America is showing. I get it. I
Listen,
understand.
I
I don't
know-
like us either right now.
Yeah, we're
get
not
it.
cooking right now,
We
but
are not.
also, as a human being, I can't do anything about that. I did what I could. I do what I can. I'm so sorry.
It's been far too long since we blamed Spain for something. Amen.
Ugh.
Magellan,
What a
fuck
mess.
that guy. He's probably Italian, actually. My history, lack of schooling is showing.
Magellan is such a cool name, though.
If the market is big, give a country as many races as needed. Yeah, I do think we need another race in South America. Whether Brazil gets a second race, or we go to Argentina. Can we blame the French for once? Unfortunately, we actually got rid of
Yeah, France said fuck Formula One, actually. So,
Look, man, I don't mind. We get a race to South Africa. I got no big deal where there's 2 races. I just need you guys to understand, they are doing it because they want money. They don't give a shit about racing, because if they did, we'd be investing in tracks, making it better, doing other stuff. Please blame Formula One. Stop blaming the United States of America. Like, it is not. Stop it.
it is personally my specific fault, and I'll take to blame everyone.
Just like the Reddit behind it is so interesting. They're like, ugh, I can't believe America has 3 races and they got rid of Imola. I was like, okay, you're like halfway there. Formula One got rid of Imola because Formula One wants more money from you.
Yeah.
I hear you. It's still your fault. God damn it.
There are a lot of things, like a lot of places that Formula One goes to that I'm like, I don't understand why they go there, but they do. So that's just how it goes.
Frozen Gunner, I'm not sure what your question is. I've been to Spa 24 Hours twice. I went last year and the year before that one, and that was pretty sick. And we do have the results for our rapid fire news, right? Lamborghini becomes the 20th different manufacturer to win Spa 24. Grasser Lamborghini with Miko Bortoletti, completely butchering these names, Luca Engstler, and Jordan Pepper. And in the Gold Cup, Verstappen's team, Verstappen.com, which is so hard to Google because you put Verstappen.com racing, it comes up with only Max Verstappen stuff and not the team. And it's so annoying. Won in their
Intentional
class.
SEO mess.
Oh, such a hot mess. They won their gold class. Not the overall race, just their class, which is awesome. And the Aston Martin. So congratulations to Max Verstappen as a team owner for winning. And my last point here, which has nothing to do with motorsports, but everything to do with racing. Some of the best racing in the world starts July 5th. Please join me in watching the Tour de France this year. I'm on a mission for everyone to watch and also support my favorite Slovenian, Tadej Pogačar.
Okay.
Perfect. We do have a Tour de France fantasy in the Discord if you're so welcome to join. Tour de France is sick. They bike a lot. They're just really strong dudes and women. There's a Tour de France women's who is incredible, and they're biking up these hills, as Kate Bush would say. Vingegaard Crude, where are you? Okay, that's fine. I got Vanderpool. I got no beef. I do love Tadej, my little Slovenian boy. He's like 27. I'm acting like he's 12 years old. He's an adult with children. Is there a way to watch the tour without having Peacock? There is. Not that I would ever condone that, but we will have that available. Not available in the Discord. We would never show anything in the Discord ever like that because we would only listen to Peacock because they are the best. I would also like to denote that I'm still bitter that I got a trivia question wrong like 12 years ago. Shout out to Tarpon Bend in Fort Lauderdale where we played trivia in like 2013, 2014. What is the most viewed in-person spectator sport in the world? I'm sure
I'm assuming it's the Tour de France.
Yeah, but that's fucking stupid because you count the whole country of France? That's not fair. Just because you're biking through my fucking town doesn't mean I'm watching your goddamn sport. I feel like the only way to actually calculate that was through ticket sales. So I was like, what's a multi-day event? What is a multi-day event that's the most viewed spectator sport in the world? I was like, okay, the Olympics, right? You get so many people coming in and watching in person. And I was like, definitely not the Super Bowl. Not too many people can fit in a stadium. And all of a sudden it was like, they're like Tour de France. They're like, they count the whole country of France. I was like, that's the dumb. I was so mad. And we lost we got P3 or P2 that time because of that fucking question. And I was like, no fucking way. You cannot count the whole country because you bike through it.
That's the most French thing I've ever heard.
Anyway, you should watch it. It is really fun. We like to get in discussions. Also, just like the feats of physical ability on these bikes, on these mountain climbs, on these sprints is really, really fun. You just throw it on in the morning, have it on in the background. It's all a good time. They do a really good job broadcasting it with people in the back. You can hear me complain about people who stand too close to the cyclists too, with their signs and their flags and like getting in the way. I get a little heated about that, but we got a lot of days till that has to happen. So it's all good. Be better if they run dirt bikes. Boo.
Yeah.
That's not feats of strength.
I don't know how I feel about feats of strength.
Why?
I just think I don't know. There's this is gonna sound it's completely out of pocket, but the thighs of bikers freak me out to an extent that I cannot watch.
Like they're too strong for you?
I just look at it and I'm like, that's not what a leg should look like. That's crazy. I don't like the thought that I have muscle under my skin or bones under my skin. Like that just creeps me out, and I don't like reminders of that.
It's crazy seeing them after specifically like a hill climb too, when they're working really hard and their thighs are just like, and their calves, like
Bubbling.
they're bubbling, they're muscly, and their arms are like little puny noodles because they obviously mostly work the lower part of their body. And like, this is insane.
It's just creepy. It's too much for me.
It was very impressive.
I mean, yeah, but also
Excuse me, they bike through the whole country of France, Elizabeth. It's a trivia
okay,
question you might need to know.
good for them.
Good for them.
Not gonna catch me doing that shit. You're gonna catch me biking anywhere.
Someone goes, I hate that. Oh my God. I want to drop two versions of the one with the non-doped riders who are frothing climbing the mountains, and one for the doped riders who will complete the stages in 25 minutes. Yeah, it'd be fun to go back and forth. Can the tour just admit that everyone's on performance enhancement drugs and move on? No, because they're not. How dare you? Tade would never.
I think they should give them as many performance enhancing drugs as is possible for a human body to consume. I don't care if it's good for them. I just want to see what a person can do. If you
Yeah,
like
I agree with that.
pep it up. You know what I mean?
They should be allowed smoke breaks to keep true to the French spirit.
They get a 3-hour lunch in the middle of the day.
And climbing up the hill, and they're like, I'm done here. Actually, they wouldn't be biking in July at all. They were just like a 2-month summer break. We'd just see them all again in October. Oh, God. Let's get into talking about Formula One in Austria this past weekend. We had Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc as your pony. Our little boy Chucky Leclucky.
It was a weekend. It was a fun weekend, honestly. Tried to start the race and immediately had a bad time. Carlos Sainz couldn't get the car started. Brakes got locked up, etc. He was able to get it started and drive around the track for the formation lap at the very tail end, but then came into the pits where his brakes then lit on fire. And he just like kind of hung out in there
Yeah.
while that was going on. No big.
Was he not
Like-
allowed out of the car?
I have no idea what the situation of that was, whether or not he knew about that, or
This
whether
man
it
is
was
awfully
like,
calm. I know his brakes are on
Yeah.
fire. They had it under control, but I'd be like, I don't want to sit here anymore. I have
yeah,
to.
I would want to get out. Uh, I don't know, but they had to delay the start of the race, and then they made them grid back up, do another formation lap, and come back around to do the start. So it was like a 15-minute delay.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was unfortunate for Carlos Sainz, and then just Williams in general, right? Because Alex Albon later also DNF'd, which is his third DNF in a row. And I believe the last time that happened in modern times was Valtteri Bottas in 2023. Otherwise, it was like in 87, 86, someone DNF'd like 16 times in a row. But in modern times, 3 DNFs in a row is a lot, knowing the reliability of these cars. So I'm not really sure what's going on with Williams. They've had some bad luck with incidents on the track, but also the car. It's just, they were doing really well at the start of the season, and now they're going,
Yeah. Meow. Power unit issue, I believe, was what they had with Albon, but that was why they retired him the last 2 times. So the first time 3 races ago was when it died like on the track, I think, and they had to pull him back in and call it quits. And then they brought him in Canada as like a preventative measure to try to preserve the power unit. And that apparently didn't work at all. So same thing in Austria. And maybe they will be making changes for Silverstone. I'm assuming we're going, I don't know if they're at the level of used components to get a pit lane start and whatnot at this point because of the, changes, but I have a feeling they're going to be doing big changes for what is effectively their home race.
Someone posted an image of their livery because they added some. So they wrote for our home race new colors, and the picture is red, white, and blue. And I deeply apologize to anyone who's going to roll their eyes at this. It is 4th of July week here in the United States, and I saw this red, white, and blue fucking picture, and I was like, home race? Is this for Coda? I was like, what are they talking about? Just because a hedge fund from America or this capital management firm owns you, like this isn't. What are you talking about? So I was like, Ashley, it's just Silverstone, like, the British flag. I'm like, hello, and I was like, oh my fucking god, I am so sorry. That was the dumbest thing.
I did.
It was
I went
so
to
spanking red,
Silverstone.
white, and blue on that picture. I'm just letting everyone know. I was convinced.
I went to Silverstone with my friend Remy in 2015, and it was the same thing, 4th of July weekend. So we showed up with an American flag on a pole, because this was
Oof.
before being American was the worst thing in the world. But we were walking around with that at the track and like look over, and there's two dudes doing the exact same thing.
Nice.
So we like got a big selfie with them, and they were like, "Oh, it was so much fun." And we like camped that outside of our tent that weekend when we were camping, and everyone, like all of the camp people were like, "That's so funny. Welcome to our country. Good to see you back."
Good to see you back, guys. Glad we pushed everything out of the way. The second time we tried to get started, we did start racing, but then Kimi Antonelli became an absolute projectile into Max Verstappen.
So great news for Max. He did not get a penalty point this weekend. So he will be racing in Silverstone and has had two penalty points expire.
Yay! There was no beef there. I mean, obviously, Max on the radio, when it happened, said fucking idiots, which I do every day when
Yeah.
I'm driving, so that's not a big deal to me. Max turned into Kimi. He should be banned. Yeah, Max shouldn't have been there. He should have known Kimi Antonelli was going to beef it into the corner and lock up his brakes. Kimi Antonelli was definitely apologetic, like very apologetic. He obviously apologized to Max when they got out of the cars.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't hear Max very well, though. He went to the Red Bull hospitality and the media pen. He definitely apologized again. He's been very apologetic. Yeah. Max is fine. He said it happens to everyone at least once. This was Kimi's time. Not a big deal. He got to watch the Spa 24-hour and see his team win. So
good for him.
Good for him. Thank
Small
you, Kimi Antonelli, actually.
victories,
Because Max would have missed as a team owner winning a race. So, maybe it worked out. Maybe he's like, I actually like doing this more, and I'm going to be racing next year instead of doing this. Max turned into dad mode real quick. Yeah. A little softy.
Cute.
He's just trying to hang. Talking about our race winners, I wrote that I think Lando had like a 99% perfect race. Not 100. Yeah. I think 99.99%. He was also getting mentally hyped up by his engineer on the radio, which I love that he figured it out. He's like, I need words of affirmation. This is my love language during a race.
Yeah, he was talking about this in the press conference after the race. So Lando got pole by half a second, in large part because Pierre Gasly spun in the final turn while everyone was doing their fast qualifying laps at the very end of the Q3. So that threw a lot of people's fast laps out. No one could challenge Lando, but he did have a great lap nevertheless, which he converted and, took the pole position, held it to the start. But while he was talking after the race, he was like, yeah, I realized it's okay to ask for help sometimes. Like, sometimes I just need to recognize that I need some guidance and some assistance. And I was like, hell yeah, brother. Sometimes we do need to ask for help. Sometimes we do need a race engineer to just give us a couple pointers while we were going.
And it worked out for him. He won the race. He stayed cool under Piastri's pressure. He kept his P1 in the first lap that everyone likes to make fun of him for. Dealt with traffic, which we'll get to in a second. And stayed consistent. I got no notes for Lando Norris. He did a great job. And the problem is, can he keep doing this?
Yes. That's the thing is, like, he pulls out these stunning drives every so often. And then, like, something happens and he, like, gets in his own head. So I'm hoping he was very confident that the pressure of Silverstone and his home race and all of that is not going to bother him. But I think we've seen historically that does tend to bother drivers. He's had enough experience that I don't think it's going to come as a shock to him if there's plenty of obligations and stuff. Kimi Antonelli said that he was very surprised by how many media obligations and activations he had to go to in Imola. And so he did not prepare well because he did not organize his time well. Lando's done this a couple times. I think he'll be okay. But also, you just never know. Like, you could get the jitters. I would. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, remember Australia, he started off strong and then kind of pittered. So he's
Yep.
just back again. Everything is
Yep.
cyclical. Piastri, I mean, Lando had a great start. Blocked Charles Leclerc. Piastri was able to take Charles Leclerc pretty easily. And Piastri aggressively trying to pass Lando Norris from the beginning and just couldn't quite make it stick. And
Mhm.
I wasn't sure if that's due to Piastri's inexperience because he's passed cars before. Like this isn't his
Yeah.
first rodeo. And then for me, I was thinking whatever that had to do with the papaya rules, which papaya rules they're
Mhm.
allowed to fight. The only rule within that subset is they're not allowed to have contact.
Yeah.
Considering what happened last week, even though that wasn't Piastri's fault, I do wonder if he was just like, oh, I can't. Like he's overthinking about it. Like he can't touch
Mhm.
wheels, God forbid, or something were to
Yeah.
happen. He can't be as aggressive as he wanted to be, or
I
try to pull off the moves. So I'm like going back and forth.
I think he felt like he could do it, but there was that on lap 20 there he had that moment where he locked up and
He
almost
turned
clipped
forward.
the
Yeah,
back of Lando. And after that he said that he was like, "Oh, I realized I screwed up and I pushed it too hard and I needed to hold back." So he said that he wasn't going quite like balls to the wall as he might have been if it was someone else. I think just out of respect for the fact that it is his teammate and we
yeah.
don't want another collision DNF going on. So he's still leading the championship by 15 points and did a good job.
His post
So we'll
race always
see.
gets me. Every time he's P2, every time he's not P1, he's like, tough weekend. We got to see what we got. We got to do better. I got to go back to the drawing board. We got to do better next time. And like, he says it in a way where it's like very dry and he doesn't seem tough on himself, but he's just like, he clearly wants to win. This man is a psychopath. He's just like, P2, not good enough. We're going to see what opportunities we can do and like do better for next time. I was like, jeez. So many people
He had a,
wish they were P2.
he had a great moment in the press conference too, where they asked him like, "Do you think you're going to have a hostile response, like a welcome, from the British fans next weekend?" And he was like, "A couple years ago they were cheering for me, so I think I'll be fine. But also, there were no Max Verstappen fans booing us today, so I think it's good." I was like, I just think it's because he's not in the race.
He's very, Piastri seems very chill. DBZ says, I'm sorry, but the way McLaren talked to the drivers on the radio was sometimes annoying. Like, you can race, but not too much? Okay, whatever that means. But they seem to be only doing that when Oscar is trying to pass him. I think I had. Please hold, DBZ. And this is not towards you specifically. I did read another. I wonder if I screenshotted it. Another take online. Yes, from another take online, also says it's obvious McLaren protect Lando more. I'm not saying this take is right, by the way. First, the dodgy team orders in Australia. Then they let Lando do a dive bomb in the hairpin in Canada. And after Lando crashed into Oscar, they were all oopsie. And now in Austria, they scold Oscar for a similar dive bomb.
What happened in Canada? We got more clarification on that this weekend from Andrea Stella, the team principal at McLaren. Oscar had a D rating of his MGUK. What does that mean? It's like when you have a cell phone and when you first get it, your battery operates at peak capacity, but the longer you use it and put your cell phone through nonsense and use 1,000 apps and download a million things, your battery life gets less. In that lap where Lando collided with Piastri in Canada, his MGUK suddenly derated. So he was going much slower than anticipated. So I think they were like, yeah, Lando can attempt to make this pass. I think Lando thought he could as well, but they had an actual like battery issue that just meant Piastri did not have more as much power out of that corner as was expected. So Lando approached way faster than expected and realized, oh shit, and it just kind of turned into a disaster. So I don't think it's necessarily that they were like, yeah, Lando, go ahead and get his ass over here. I think it was more of just like they thought that that was a possibility that could happen. And turns out, oh shit, we have an, MGUK problem. And we now have to deal with the repercussions of that.
And I don't think they scolded. I wouldn't say scolded Oscar. I think they were
They
like, hey, you got. Well,
they
first of
called the
all,
move marginal. They were like, that was marginal. And he said, yup. And he said after the race, again, I thought the exact same thing and decided to finish P2. So I think he made the call of like, this is still a team sport, and finishing second is better than trying to overtake, crashing into your teammate, and neither of you finishing at all or you finishing at all. I think it was just a moment of like, hey, you fucked up, or like
Yeah, yeah.
you got a little close there, and he was like, absolutely, you are correct, I did.
But when they said that was like I was like, why did they choose after to mention that? They should have
Yeah.
just like said something later. In the moment, I understand he did that, almost hit, got a bald spot on his tire. Now his like tires are messed up. You got to come in, but they picked
Hmm.
Lando first because he had priority in the strategy and what they were doing. So it's like that kind of messed up Oscar. Like this whole chain of events happened
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
As minute as it was, you would think it is like, oh, it has only happened once. But after he gets into the pit and he's like still chasing down Lando, then they tell him that was marginal and not to do that again, or like hint,
Yeah.
like maybe think about that again. And David Coulthard said the same thing. He's like, I don't know why they're choosing to tell him this now.
But that's the thing. Why when did that message get to Oscar? And when did
Oh,
FOM decide to
choose to
play
air it.
it?
That's a very great
Yeah.
point.
So I understand. I don't know if that was like a, oh, they
That's fair.
realized like we've got a thing that happened that we
Yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
share the radio message for. So I don't know if it was a matter of like after the pit stop they told him, or if it was before the pit stop. It's difficult to know that.
Yeah, and I think they'll go by qualifying order and they'll respect that. And if you can overtake on the track, you can.
Yeah.
I think there were other team orders with McLaren on certain tracks that I think the user that I saw in threads is referring to, not baby in the chat. That they're like, oh, they're not letting them. They're being weird about it. And I was like, I just don't think they see the risk reward situation here is
Yeah.
just not working out for them. As in, this track was too narrow, specifically the one that I think they're talking about, like Australia. Like, I don't want my team passing there. Maybe on the front straight they can pull it off, but you got to be close. You got to be within DRS, all that other stuff. I just don't think. I think there was a risk reward analysis. Do I think they're protecting Lando? No. Do I
Yeah.
think they obviously have a number one driver and they're lying about we treat them equally? Possibly. But I
I
do think they're
think
going by qualifying order.
I think th they're going by qualifying order. They're also going by who gets like track position at the start of the race.
Hmm.
And I also don't think it is completely shocking that they might have, I don't want to say like a preference for Lando, but he's just been there for way longer. He's been with the team for like 7, 8 years now.
Hmm.
Oscar is still quite new. I don't know that I don't think it's that they just dislike him or prefer him less. I think
Yeah.
it's more of just the fact like we've worked so hard with this guy, this one specific person. He's seen our team through the shit of like when we were at the back of the field, and now he's up here challenging for wins. There is a certain amount of like we all want to do this together. With the
Yeah.
people who have been in the team for so long, I don't think that's taking anything away from Oscar Piastri at this moment. Um, I saw a lot of like critiques of like the strategy that McLaren put him on, and McLaren didn't put him on that strategy. He requested the strategy that he asked for, um, with regards to his first pit stop at least. So he wanted to try something different. It didn't work, and that just kind of happens. I don't know. I don't think it's like an obvious
I
preference.
just also don't think there's a conspiracy of some
Yeah,
kind that people
I
are
think
trying to
that's
like
the big
build in their
thing.
head. Like some people take it just like a little smidge too far. I don't think McLaren is like, oh, fuck Oscar Piastri. I think they
Yeah,
obviously see his talent, and he's a very, very
yeah,
good driver. The thing is going to come is whenever if Lando decides to switch teams, or if Oscar starts not having the strongest races, and if they give the
yeah,
same leeway to Oscar as they do to Lando, but time will tell that, and we haven't seen it because Oscar's just been so
yeah.
strong, and they've given him preference when he's leading and qualifies and pole position and all that stuff. So
Yeah. And I also think they understand the mentality of both of their drivers being very different. And Lando is a guy who does kind of need some hand holding. He needs some extra motivation. He needs some, he kind of needs the assurance that like I've got this.
yeah.
And I think that he needs that level of help that Oscar does not need. Oscar knows he's got this. If Oscar is in the lead, there's a certain confidence. Um, he's just a small bean with anxiety.
Amen.
Yeah, I think they understand how to work with their drivers that they have. And I think that
Yeah.
they're doing a good enough job. They're leading the championship by fucking a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like they've got this.
Yeah, and I do think they yap a lot on the radio. We've talked about this so many times about how they're just having full-on conversations, and then they give like Lando a choice, and he's just like
Yeah.
in the middle of fighting with someone, and they're like, "Do you want to do this or this?" And I was like, "Man, you should really streamline it for him, or like
Yeah.
talk about this beforehand." But again, to your point, they if that's his preference, maybe he's asked for that.
Yeah.
I'm not a Formula One driver. I don't know what he's asking for, if that's what he prefers, if that's how they work together. They do like to yap a lot, so. I think the problem is that they're not open about their feelings when everyone else can tell which is where the conspiracies happen. I don't know if I explained that well. Yeah, it's the not knowing, and I get it. It's the ambiguity, and it like, can we trust Formula One, specifically Formula One teams, knowing historically they don't really give a shit about drivers? They kind of just use them as expenditures to get to point A to point B, aka start to finish and look good. That they're going to treat them all equally. You were correct. That's where the conspiracy is coming from. And then when people watch races, it's also, I think, recency bias. So. Or we watch this race and they're like, oh, Lando is getting treated this way. And, well, Oscar was treated pretty well when he gets pole position. And they're like, great race, Oscar. Keep just crushing it. You're doing well. And they're talking a lot to Lando. So, again, we just see this race and people not knowing and don't trust. I can see why it happens.
There are also, there's a certain level of carefully constructed personas that the different teams put out. So if you are feeling like this is manufactured, that is by design, because when Andrea Stella talks to the media, nothing he says is unintentional. Everything he says, he has thought about already, even if it's a freaking off the wall question. This is a guy who has his shit together. Christian Horner, same thing. Fred Vasseur, same thing. Like, this is to be a team principal, you also have a certain level of artifice. You have to present things that may not be 100% true, that may not, accurately reflect what's going on behind the scenes, but you are trying to deflect so that no one can see, so that they don't ask the questions that get at the heart of the problems, because you don't want to have to talk about those. So I understand where it comes from. Like, there are things where, like, I listen to these guys talk and I roll my eyes because I'm like, that's bullshit. I also don't think it's malicious. I think that's the thing. I don't think it's a malicious intent. I think it is more of like, they're not going to give you the scoop. They're not going to tell you what's going on. They're not going to tell the media that. They don't want the fans to know that. That's no one's business, because then the teams know. I think the drivers are very similar. Like, they have a persona that they want to project.
Yeah.
You get heat of the moment stuff, absolutely, because they are more in the car in the moment. But like, they've been going through PR training since they were probably like 7 years old. These are guys who know what to say, when to say it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do want to get into lap traffic. We've been talking about McLaren a lot. But speaking of, what was the lap traffic doing? I realized Tsunoda was battling in front of Piastri, not Norris. Colapinto then running Piastri off the road, not even realizing he was there or using his mirror or anything like that. And then Alonso getting in the way in the last lap with his battle with Bortoleto, which, yes, you're allowed to lap yourself. But as I texted Elizabeth after the race, my brother and Chris, what are you doing? It is the last lap. What is happening? Read the room.
Girl, come on. So, I don't know. God bless Fernando, but also, girl.
I respect him not giving a shit. Yeah, exactly. I respect that he doesn't give a shit, but also, like, do you know how mad he would be if someone did that to him? He was mad when Liam Lawson fought him in Coda. Like, what are you dude, what are you doing?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Classic Fernando Alonso. We love you, bud. You're just,
bless him.
When I call him a shithouse, that's what I mean. It's like, this man is just unapologetically just doing stuff on the track, being himself.
He's doing it for himself, and he does not care what anyone else thinks about it. It is him over everyone.
I wish these news fans watched Prime Fernando Alonso, just burning bridges, literally saying what he wanted. We thought, people were like, oh, Max Verstappen is mean. I was like, you should have met Fernando Alonso when he was younger. That man did not care. And that
we need more like primer fan cams. We need people who like go through and get those Fernando Alonso like clips of him being a dingus and then put them together to a background of some tense music and be like, here you go, young ones. Like, please, this is what you need to know. This is what you need to understand.
Yeah, he's not just like an Aston Martin dude dicking around in the middle.
Yeah.
He's really making fun of a team to their face on the radio. Yeah, kind of like Piastri on the radio to Alpine.
Yeah.
Still screwing him over all these years, but Ferrari was fine.
Ferrari.
They were there. They didn't do
Yeah.
anything super amazing. They didn't do anything super wrong, which, a
Yeah.
win's a win.
They brought a new floor this weekend, so this is part of a two-part upgrade package. The second part, certain media publications have been saying it'll come in Silverstone. All of the drivers were like, "Oh, we can't tell you if that's going to happen," so it's not confirmed yet.
Interesting.
Um, Charles Leclerc and I think Lewis Hamilton as well, but I mostly just focused on Charles Leclerc when I was doing my post-race coverage, was very they were like, was it a good upgrade? And he would be like, it was a step in the right direction. It was an upgrade. And so, like, he wouldn't say that it was good or not, but it clearly had some kind of impact because we had a 3-4 finish, which is better than they've done most of this year. On race day itself, we also had a big change of personnel. Fred Vasseur was out. Fred Vasseur left the track. I believe what has happened is his mother died.
Ooh.
So he went home to deal with that. And my heart goes out to him. But as a rampant Jerome D'Ambrosio fan, my son being in charge of Ferrari on the day they got a decent finish, a shocking highlight, honestly. Like I was like, my boy, I have a hat he gave me from a Formula E podium on my wall right now. And I was like, he didn't fuck it up. He didn't fuck it up.
That's my
Let's
man.
go. Let's go.
The only negative to the weekend was definitely them again communication issues with Lewis Hamilton about
Yeah.
pit strategy and just
Yeah.
tire strategy, and that is another constant. They are trending upward, but it is a constant issue talking with Lewis Hamilton and like trying to figure out like Lewis always seems surprised. He wants this, they say no, and like I don't get a response for a little bit or how they air it.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating to see that because I don't think Lewis expected that when he came in. Like he knew there'd be some like learning
Yeah.
curves, but the
Yeah. But
constant
that's a
every race
big
weekend is
learning
like,
curve.
jeez. And that has to be 100% frustrating. There's no way they don't talk about this all the time, and just race after race, it was just like, ugh, it is so crazy. But Ferrari trending up, Williams trending down, but another up, Sauber. Who would have seen this coming?
Sauber, baby.
Not
Again,
me.
brought an upgrade, and suddenly they've got their shit together. Gabriel Bortoleto, shout out to him, qualified P8 and finished P8. So that is his first points of the 2025 season.
Woo.
He had a big battle with Fernando Alonso during the latter part of the race. And he had a lot of cute quotes about that. If you don't know, Gabriel Bortoleto is a driver who is signed to Fernando Alonso's driver management company. So this is technically like his mentor, his guy. They share planes together. Like Fernando gives Gabriel flights home. He had a lot of cute stuff to say after the race of like, if I would have crashed into him, he wouldn't, like, I wouldn't have had a way to get home. And also talked about how cool it was to see Fernando, like the confidence he has behind the wheel. Where he was like, young drivers, you got to think about things. Fernando he knows where to put his car. He knows exactly like what to do. They did great. Nico Hulkenberg scored points for the third consecutive weekend. That is the team's longest consecutive scoring streak since 2022. So shout out to them. They did great. And that's, again, if you're like, why does this matter? Sauber is in a very tight three-way battle for 7th, I think, in the championship standings with Haas and Alpine. So those little sprinkling of points on a weekend matter.
Yeah.
They add up toward the end of the year. You get bonuses and extra money for the points you score and the position you finish in the championship. So you want to be as high up as you humanly possibly can. And we love to see a midfield turnaround.
I was a little frustrated that I understand they were focusing on the McLarens because everyone wanted to see that battle and that's what people were talking
Yes.
about and whatever. And they would like replay other shit that's happening in the midfield. And I was like, can we just like have a side by side maybe situation going of seeing the McLarens and like if it happens you can full screen it, but like literally watching everyone else. Because that I hated when they did that, especially when also Max was dominating. They would just show Max, and we missed so much that happened back there. And I was like, yes, we get it. This is cool, and this is what the people are driving to see, I guess,
Yeah.
social media wise. But I want to watch the other stuff too. I want to watch the other battles.
Yeah. There's some good stuff that's going on. It was a oh look, all in all, I think it was a decent race. I enjoyed it. Probably a good like 8 out of 10.
What do you mean we never get to watch the leader? We never get to watch the leader when they're like 10 seconds ahead. Who gives a shit what he's doing? He's
Yeah.
just up there. They're moving
Yeah.
out of the wave of blue flags.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's
Piastri
actually-
made Lando relevant because he was
Yeah.
trying to fight him and put him on television. Otherwise, we'd be like, okay, see you later, Lando, and we'd see them dicking around back there.
I'm gonna write an article about how I like what the Chicago GP says. F1 doesn't have the money for your fancy side by sides. I'm gonna write an article about how if NASCAR can do it, Formula One should do it. And I bet they would, because they wouldn't want to be less than NASCAR.
What true. It's where we get multiple laps of good racing for the lead.
Yeah.
Okay, the first like 25, great. Then after that, what were we really doing? You know, we could have done a side by side. We could have gone back and forth instead of just replays of the other one. Come on, give me something to work with here. We have the rest of the formulas. We got cars P3 to P20. They pay good money.
Give their sponsors some airtime.
Give their sponsors some airtime. I do agree after that point until maybe the lap traffic at the end. Yeah, then you just go back a little bit. I am surprised they sometimes don't do like a picture-in-picture of like multiple things happening or a side-by-side. That does surprise me now that I say that out loud. MotoGP has a tiny cam of Marc Marquez with like a 5-second lead and then mainly focus on the other stuff. Well, it's because Mark's just doing Mark things, getting the next championship. Yeah, just do a tiny cam of the lead. And if something, and someone has to be paying attention where they switch, but I guess that's a lot of work. I get it. I don't
know.
I'm a little
You're
butthurt.
Formula One. Can you not do you not have mission control where there's 600 people who are watching every camera angle?
They definitely do. Maybe not 600 people, but maybe not enough.
They got
to
a
watch
lot.
Yeah, I guess they also bank. To Sandra's point, they're banking on they know McLaren's going to give them something good on television, right? True. As opposed to whatever the doofuses back there are doing.
Maybe
trying to run each other off the road.
Last couple of laps crash between the McLarens like we did in Canada, so we got to keep an eye on them.
And I think the fight for the lead will be more fun with the blue flag rule sometimes. Yeah, they're just trying to. Overall, yeah, it was fine. The race was like a 7.5. It was a race weekend. Nothing crazy strategy-wise. Nothing crazy on the track that happened. I believe Baby made a good point that Charles Leclerc did the George Russell, where he just did really well and then ended up P3, and then we saw him on the podium. Like, we never saw him done the broadcast. He was like, oh, okay.
It was, again, in the press conference after the race, they were like, what were your key moments of this race? And he laughed and he was like, well, I didn't expect that question because it was a very boring race. It was just me driving around.
Key moments, I didn't fuck up. Ferrari didn't fuck up, and we're P3.
I crossed the finish line. That was my key moment.
The end. Red Bull brought upgrades, but we couldn't see what it could do since Max didn't make it past lap 1. Well,
shit happens.
Yeah, I guess we'll see it at Silverstone. Is it Silverstone or Silverstone? Because I get yelled at either way when I'm talking about
I'm going to call it Silverstone, but I know people with accents call it Silverstone, and that's fine too. Let me speak words.
I'm going to do the same thing that I do with WEC and then say all of them in a row. I say WEC WEC World Endurance Championship, Silverstone is next weekend. And I'm definitely excited. There's always a lot of hype around it. It's in a nice time for us in the United States. It's just like a little bit later. Silverstein, not the band. No screamo, I promise. I don't want to sound British, but Chuck's key moments. Didn't fuck up the start. Didn't fuck the pit stops. Took the checkered flag. Yeah, taking the checkered flag. Always a key moment for me.
3 key moments.
3 key moments. That was Formula One Austria. We're going to talk about NASCAR, and then we will talk about F1 the movie and our thoughts with spoilers. But we were going to go through NASCAR very quickly first.
Yes.
So NASCAR, the first show on TNT. T. Elizabeth, how did you think they did?
I think it was all right. I didn't think it was terrible. It was Amazon Prime on television. So,
But kind of. They have different
kind of.
production crew.
Yeah.
Same people.
Yeah. But
Kind of.
it didn't feel bad or weird or anything. There was a The production of it was fine. I didn't watch the pre-race or the post-race because I was working and then went to bed. So Chris could tell you more of that. But yeah, it was fun.
I like that booth for sure. I thought it was
I did.
fine. Yeah, I thought I had no complaints.
Yes. I also, sorry, I thought that it was um, also nice because if you go on Max, I believe they have bracket cams now. So Max has
Mm,
in-car cameras where you can watch each individual driver or you can watch a certain collection of drivers. We're doing the bracket challenge now where we've got two drivers paired up against each other. And so they have those two head to head shown on Max, as well as an alternate cast where they
that's
have
cool.
Larry Mack and
Yeah.
Jeff Burton talking about the odds and stuff as the race goes along. So that's a different kind of angle, different experience, as well as the actual TNT broadcast. So I thought that was very neat.
I thought that was neat. I did send some absolute toasters online, and they're like, "I don't want this. Where's a regular broadcast?" And I was like, "My brother in Christ, there are two broadcasts. The
Yeah,
altcast that you are watching, and it says
yeah,
on the bottom right hand corner where to find the bottom right, bottom left. Anyway, where to
yeah,
find the normal broadcast."
yeah.
This is
Calm
like people
down.
who were complaining about Prime when it was free for a 30-day trial. You got to see all the races, and then you
Yeah,
can cancel it and call it a day. There were two broadcasts.
yeah.
It's really not that hard to find both. Please.
Yes. Everyone relax.
You could tell who did. You can tell who didn't change the channel after qualifying. Yes,
Yes.
it's like these people don't watch any other sport. Where I'm constantly trying to watch the Yankees somewhere, and then I can't. Oh, randomly, the Yankees are playing the Cincinnati Reds, and Charlotte is blacked out from Cincinnati Reds games. And I was like,
What?
it's so far away. Why am I blacked out in Charlotte, North Carolina from Cincinnati?
All of those snowbirds coming down from Cincinnati to
So
Charlotte.
weird. Watch the Braves. I can't because that's also blacked out because that's like the nearest one by us, so I can't do that. I also can't watch the Washington Nationals or the Baltimore Orioles.
That's
Those are the
insane.
four teams that are blacked out in Charlotte, North
How are
Carolina.
you supposed to watch sport?
I mean, I watch the Yankees, which is nice enough. I just can't watch when they're competing against those four, unfortunately. How was the
Sheesh.
altcast? People said they liked it a lot. A lot of people like the watch along format or just getting the ad. They also had Mamba Smith on the altcast, like in
Mm,
person, like being the reporter, like not pit road, maybe pit road, like a mix of pit road and the
yeah.
garages and talking and stuff. So that was really, really fun. Yeah, I liked it. Atlanta, which we will call Atlanta and nothing else ever again. No matter how much money someone can spend on buying it and slapping their logo on it. For those of you who didn't know, Echo Park, is that what the company's
Echo
called?
Park.
They bought or the naming rights for Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it's called
Yeah.
Echo Park Speedway, or they're trying to throw it. And everyone keeps calling it Atlanta because that's the name.
Because it's Atlanta.
It's Atlanta. It's Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, Ryan Blaney did that trend where you talk away from the camera and then you say something that's controversial, and you're supposed to turn around and be like, "Oh my God, who said that?" And I'm surprised that Penske Racing published that. Because essentially Ryan Blaney turned around and he goes, "No matter what you call it, it's always going to be called Atlanta. It's Atlanta." He's like, "Oh, who said that?" And I was like, "Oh my God. Is NASCAR not going to be angry at you?"
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is
Maybe
crazy.
maybe NASCAR was and the script writers wrote him getting crashed out. So
I was just surprised that they were just like shitting on a sponsor so hard. I was like, "Damn,
not
Blaney."
their sponsor, not my problem.
Yeah, he's like, Echo Park doesn't sponsor fucking Penske. I don't give a shit. Atlanta had 46 lead swaps and 10 cautions over 68 yellow flag laps, which is 104.72 miles, which is 26% of the total distance of the race. Kind of showing how unpredictable, Atlanta is and can be. We also had, I'll just skip really quickly, the big one, or a big one, I guess I should say, not the big one, but a big one.
And big one.
A period, big period, one period.
Yes. How many cars was in that?
22 out of the
20
42 cars. Got inflicted some sort of damage because Busher
Yes.
lifted, inflicting varying sort of damage on the 22 out of 40 cars.
And I believe when they were, I don't know if it remained that way, but like in the closing laps, they showed the cars without damage, and there were like 3 or 4. So within the other wrecks that happened throughout the race, there were like 4 cars that made it through unscathed. And I believe Chase Elliott was one of them. He took the checkered flag and won the race on a dramatic last lap pass on Brad Keselowski. So he has ended a 44 race winless streak and took his 20th career victory.
Bowman helps out Elliott. It's interesting because in Keselowski's radio, or like when you hear over his in car, he's just like, "No one's helping me out," because he thought like Bowman would help him out. It's like, why would you think this is helping? Like, get your Ford buddies. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want Bowman to do? He's gonna actually help Elliott out and give him a good
Yeah.
old shove. So Elliott edged out Keselowski by 0.168 seconds, with all them ending in the top three. And Elliott's car, I don't know if those who saw it, and his helmet and his fire suit all matched up because his car benefited the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. A cancer patient, Raylan Mills, designed the paint scheme and got to celebrate at the end with Elliott when he won.
Very cute.
That is very nice. I thought that was very, 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 very cute. Very, very wholesome. For those of you who may or may not know, there's an in-season tournament that started with Atlanta, which they pitted drivers against each other. It doesn't affect the race and how the race runs. It was just for people to be like, oh, like who's going to finish in Atlanta, Blaney or Carson Hocevar, and you got to pick, and you kept going to who you thought was going to win the ultimate in-season bracket challenge.
If you get it correct, you could also win money.
Yeah, if you get it correct, you win $1 million, and the driver who wins gets $1 million. And as of obviously yesterday, there are 0 perfect brackets remaining.
It's over.
It's Jover for any. I think they might make an exception to who's the next closest, but
they're gonna have to, because what the fuck?
I had Ryan Blaney winning.
Yeah. Ooh, I had Ryan Blaney, I think, getting knocked out in the next round. So I had him getting through this one because they had him against Carson Hocevar.
Okay. Yes.
And I was like, he's gonna do fine there, but I don't know how he's gonna do in Chicago, so I'm gonna pick whoever else
That's fair.
Picked it up. I like put a little bit of thought into it, and then I just got wiped out. I was like, whatever, I don't care. I didn't want to win anyway.
0 perfect brackets remaining, thanks to that big one. Interesting. So Ryan says, I had no clue this was happening. Nice marketing, NASCAR. It was interesting. I know the week of Atlanta, they put out an Instagram video, but again, I say that, but I mean, I know not everyone's online as much as I am, right? Like I am constantly on my phone and I see a lot of things, but not everyone is constantly on their phone.
Yeah.
/ the algorithm doesn't feed you things chronologically anymore. So I don't know why they didn't do it earlier. I know they mentioned it a couple times. They never really pushed it.
So I'm wondering, because the broadcast, like they mentioned it on the Prime broadcast, but how many people watched the Prime broadcast? There were a lot of people who said they weren't going to do it because they had to get the trial or whatever, and they had to not watch on cable for once. But there was also very little promotion. Like Fox, when Fox ended its coverage, it did not even acknowledge that there was racing that happened after. It was just like, yeah, our time with NASCAR is over. Did not tell you where to go next. No. Did not tell you where to watch it. So I'm wondering if like we've got this conflicting like broadcaster problem where we're not promoting things properly or consistently because we don't have the ability to do that, because Fox is like, well, I'm not going to talk about the thing that's going to be on TNT. And Prime, I don't know if they have qualms with it, but like it's a different different production, but the same the broadcasters are same. So I don't know if there's like problems there, whether it's like you can't talk about this or not. But I absolutely do agree. They brought it up a couple times, brought it up a little bit on socials, but it just didn't feel like
didn't feel like there was a campaign around it. It was like, oh, we have to
like
mention
a
this
cultural moment.
Yeah,
you know
it's like,
what I mean?
oh, we have to mention this because it's happening. It's not like, oh, we're gonna like 3 weeks out, we're gonna talk about this. 2 weeks out, we're gonna talk about this. There was no like strategy or communication strategy behind pushing it, which I thought was really interesting. And Ryan brings up a good point that I completely forgot about it until I saw the Instagram video, and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta fill this out. I guess they don't want people winning $1 million. Like money out of our pocket.
They don't gotta worry about it
now. Ain't nobody worrying about it now. That was a great race. I'm really glad I watched till the end of its entirety. I'm happy it was a Saturday night, excuse me. And I just watched the remaining laps after a while. And it's interesting. At some point, I've been watching. I'm a newer NASCAR fan, as folks know, past like four-ish years. But it's interesting that I'm starting to understand a little bit more as I'm watching. And Dale Jr. talked about this a lot, and I didn't get it. But you kind of, how do I say this without sounding cheesy? I'm just gonna say it, and hopefully you guys we can talk about it. The momentum on the track and seeing how like the cars are moving. Because I'm watching Haley and I'm like, I don't fucking trust that guy as far as I can throw him. And I'm watching Carson Hocevar. It's like, that guy's doing some squirrely ass shit. I don't like this. This is not good. Carson Hocevar ends up like he was in the top 5 for a hot second there, and then falls back completely. Luckily, no incident. Like no one crashed or spun out because of him, but flew back immediately. And I was like, fucking saw that coming. And then it wasn't Haley's fault. He got reared into, but I just didn't like what was happening there, and I could just tell in a moment. I was just like, this just looks weird, and I don't like this. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
One of myself think that. Yeah.
It's nice when you like watch and start to get a sense of what is going on and how the different racing lines work.
Yeah.
And how the momentum of those lines work, and what's possible for a driver to be able, can you make a pass by going into the bottom lane? Can you make a pass going into the top lane? Can you do something different? I don't know if you've noticed this. Chris pointed it out to me. And now I listen for it every race weekend, and it drives me crazy. Dale Jr. does not watch the screen when he commentates.
He does not.
He watches the track.
Yes.
So there were a couple times where he was like, "Oh, crash!" And it's like the screen. We got no fucking idea what's happening.
Yeah, that's where people get not like mad at Dale Jr. Like, no one's can ever be mad at Dale Jr. He's obviously a professional. He knows what he's talking about. But in broadcasting, you don't do that.
Yeah. He's breaking the tradition.
He's breaking the broadcasting rules because you and I can't see it. So he's like, "Oh, big crash," and like the camera's not there yet, so we're still watching everyone dick around. And I was like, that makes it's not on Dale, right? He's just saying what he's saying, but it's also like on the production and him to like pivot and like say as needed or for them to cue him.
Yeah.
He is a race fan at heart. I mean, obviously he's a race fan at heart. No shit, Ashley. But he's not watching the race like we are if we were there. Yeah. Which like I go back and forth on. Like it's Dale Jr., so I'm going to forgive him and give him a lot of grace. But if it was anyone fucking else, I'd be like, can you please stop? Because I don't see this. Like I don't know what's happening. So either they need to have like a camera, like a producer that's just with Dale and can pivot really quickly and figure that out what he's talking about, or he just needs to stop doing it. Or like count 30 seconds or 15 seconds and figure it out.
Pay attention to that now, because you're going to notice it all the time.
No, I have noticed it.
Not you, everyone else. If they've not noticed it yet, pay attention to that for the future. Because if you I hadn't noticed it really. Like there were a couple times where it was like I recognized that I was like, why aren't they showing it then? And Chris was like, well, because like Dale watches out the window, and you're not supposed to do that. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like I guess I didn't put those two things together.
They're gonna lock our man in a room soon and be like, you're not allowed in here. Fun fact, like a lot of commentary, or all commentary, one, you either don't look out a window, or two, you just look out to like the front straight, if even that. In COTA, I know for SRO, you look when they're coming out of the last corner, you see in the start of the grandstand, that's all you see out the window. And then because you're such low level, you see like a bit of the track, the wall, and the trucks that are passing you by. So you're always watching the broadcast. And it's frustrating. You prefer what Dale Jr. does because it's Dale Jr. Truly, if it was anyone else, we would all be upset and annoyed because we wouldn't be able to see.
If it was Clint Boyer, I would have already gone on a 45-minute rant about it.
Poor Clint. As I like to say, Bauer, because it gets people upset. Yeah. If it was anyone else, we would all be very upset. But obviously, Dale obviously knows about racing. He knows what we want to see and talk about. So, like, I get it.
Yeah.
That's why I love Dale. I'm just going to admit it. Dale can do whatever he wants. And I'd be like, that's fine.
He could kill him and I wouldn't care. Sorry.
Dale's pretty cool. I believe Amy's doing more of has a podcast with him now. So I'm like learning more about like her and her style and stuff like that. And she's fucking awesome. It's just, they can do whatever they want.
They're cool people.
They're cool.
Like, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. Dale Jr. was the first person I ever interviewed in person. This was like many a year ago, when I was very like socially awkward and anxious. I was physically shaking. And they had us standing up to do this interview, and he was like, "Hey, come here, let's like sit down. Can we get you a water? Can we get you anything? How are you doing? Like before we get started, what's going on? Where did you come in from?" Because I went to New York City to do this while I was living in Philly at the time. And just like a little chat, he's like, "Well, what'd you get up to on the way here?" And then I was finally chill. He was like, "All right, now we can hit record and we can do this." I was like, oh, like that was I think the ideal first in-person interview that I could have ever had, as a very socially awkward human being who just didn't know how to speak to humans. It was very nice.
HCat says, I remember during one of his book signings, I snuck in my diecast and he chuckled and signed it. What a homie.
I also brought stuff for him to sign. You're not supposed to when you're doing an interview, but I was like, this is my husband's favorite race car driver, and we have like old, my husband's got stuff that he bought when he was contemporary. Like, I'm gonna please sign.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Feels
he
pretty
did.
cool.
He was great.
So yeah, he does do that in commentary, but I'm also going to be like, that's fine, Dale.
Yeah.
You're cool.
It's more of it's a quirk as opposed to
Yeah.
a flaw.
It's a
That's the
feature
thing.
instead of a.
Yeah. It's just a thing you can look out for.
Coming up this weekend, we do have, of course, the Formula One race. I believe IndyCar is also this weekend.
IndyCar at Mid-Ohio.
IndyCar at Mid-Ohio. NASCAR is Chicago, which 10-10, please watch. I haven't looked at the weather. I really hope rain doesn't ruin this one again for the third time in a row. I do love Chicago. If you're able to go, if you're able to grab tickets, if you're near there, I totally recommend going, whichever day you want to pick. But it's really fun. And they do such a great job. And they have really great merch. The food is really good. The festival atmosphere that they have there, they did a great job with Chicago. And I'm kind of sad to see it go, but if it doesn't continue its contract. Sorry, I don't officially know. Don't quote me on that. But NASCAR Chicago absolutely rips if you're able to watch it. 100%.
Do it.
Do it. Oh, Elizabeth, anything from you that people on the podcast should know for this week? We're not leaving, by the way. We're just trying to wrap up this podcast episode, and then we'll talk about F1 the movie for a second.
Hold, please. I have so many
Holding.
things I need to link.
Dropping it.
My Pikes Peak stories are up, so I'm dropping one in. I talked to Lonnie Unser about what it is like to be an Unser and to race at Pikes Peak with a surname that has so much legacy behind it, which was very cool. Let me scroll. I gotta find it. Here's my one for the drive on Optima battery technology. So this is why Pikes Peak actually matters in terms of car development. And I used a bag of chips to illustrate exactly what that meant. Very fun stuff. Stay tuned for more, etc., etc. That's what I have going on this week.
Oh, thank you, HCast, for pinning that. Make sure you leave it open, even if you're not reading it right now. Just click it open.
Yeah.
That's what counts. You're reading articles.
Yeah. Scroll. Leave a comment if you can. A nice one, ideally. Oh, I also wrote I got a nice comment on the story on Planet F1, which I don't want to say like never happens, because it does, but people are usually very grumpy on there. But I did a little feature in the race about how McLaren, its rebellious spirit, is changing the game for F1 teams and how it is working for them and how other teams are going to have to do that. So read or don't read. I don't give a fuck. Just open them.
I'm still waiting for mine. Dude, I have Optima battery's great. There's no hashtag not sponsored. Like, they sent me a free battery. That should fix my issues with the car key not communicating with the car, whatever the issue was. Works again.
Nice.
I have the yellow top one. I think that's how you're supposed to say it.
Yellow top. I need the orange top that I was covering, lithium battery. It has something called emergency CPR. So if your battery gets at 35%, it automatically disconnects. And so you will always have that like little backup reserve of battery no matter what. It's like that's crazy. Get a little Bluetooth app. Pay attention to what's going on. Keep an eye on it. I was like, we let our truck battery die all the time. So
I also got like a device. I forget what it is, but it's to prevent your battery from like losing it if you like keep it like not drive. If you don't drive it very often and you like connect it and not do something with the battery. I have to figure that out. Yeah. That would be a fun video if I figured it out. And I was like, ooh, what's this? Shocked myself. But thanks everyone for listening. Stay tuned for another episode where we talk about F1 the movie and our honest thoughts. Okay. Thanks, chat. All right, chat. Now end that episode. Now we're going to talk about F1 the movie. Yes. Actually, I'm going to go use the restroom. We are talking about F1 the movie. There will be spoilers. If you don't want to listen to this and want to listen to it later, by all means do so. This will be a separate episode, not on our Thursday regularly published episodes. But I do need to use the restroom. So give us your remaining thoughts about anything else you want to, and then please log off if you don't want spoilers for F1 the movie. But if you want honest, raw thoughts and conundrums, you can stay tuned.
Yes. So we're going to edit this separately, and on Friday, this little segment will go up. So if you are trying to avoid spoilers and want to see the movie before you hear us talk about it, then that's totally fine. We respect that and understand. This little review of ours is going to go up Friday after, whatever, the 4th. It'll go up on the 4th. So you will all have our thoughts. And I think Ash and I are about to have a very heated argument about what we thought about it. Because I'll wait till she gets back. Thoughts and prayers, probably. This is we're about to go crazy. We're about to learn why Elizabeth is fucking wrong, brother. I Ash Ash has written notes, so we have a little outline. And Ash has written notes. I have not. I'm going into this. I am raw dogging my argument here, and I have a lot of thoughts. Ash and I had a minor argument. After I saw it, I texted her my thoughts, and she was like, "You're absolutely incorrect." And I was like, "I don't care. I'm ready to I'm ready to own that. I'm ready to thrive on being incorrect." I also have a Substack that I wrote and ranted in, and still not sure if I want to publish it or not. We'll see.
Is everyone behaving? Has everyone left? I had a very nice rant with Ash before going live here. I'm so ready for this.
We've actually gained more viewers, so I think they've been waiting for this.
A debate for your life. Let's see here. All right.
I like that you took notes and wrote down thoughts, and I opened this morning and decided I'm gonna raw dog it.
Yeah, I just want to lay out because I think I'm being accused of something that I don't.
Me accusing you?
Not
Oh.
you in general. Well, you, chat mostly. I feel like I'm being accused, and disliked. Sorry, I'm gonna pop. I wanted to bring snacks to make this like a real F1 movie review. And just how about we start with Elizabeth? What was your just a general broad stroke? Rate the movie from like a 1 to 10. General thoughts, then we'll get into it.
I'll give it 8.5.
Okay. And why is that? What did you like about it? And what did you like broadly? What did you dislike about it?
My argument hinges on a little thing I like to call personal taste. Does not mean good taste. It means personal taste. I thought it was fun. I thought it was unrealistic, and that was exactly what I wanted for it. It was funny. It was absurd. The racing scenes were very good. And honestly, critically for me, it was not true to Formula One racing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Brad, you said the key word. And you're absolutely going to hate what I say next. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. I genuinely, I thought the script was actually pretty bad, and the actors were acting their fucking asses off. They were doing so good with the little that they had for the script. I was like, oh man, they're trying really hard. Summer blockbuster, great. Racing scenes, by that I mean visually. Obviously, none of the facts of the racing scenes, but the visual, the camera. Right, we all know the camera work they did. We've seen the behind the scenes. That was really great. Hans Zimmer did incredible on the score.
The score was so good.
Right, we love Hans Zimmer. Good summer blockbuster. Am I gonna go in a theater and watch it again? No, it was like a little long for me, and that's just again for me personally, just a little long. Not saying that it didn't deserve to be that long. I just don't think I wanted it to be that long. I will maybe watch it again, like on a plane. Or just need to, I don't know.
For me, this is gonna be one of those movies that I rewatch on a regular basis, but that's because I rewatch every racing movie that exists on a regular basis, whether it is good or not.
I rewatch Ford versus Ferrari, and I still think that is the best movie for racing. For me.
Interesting.
That one I rate higher than this one. I think that one did
Really?
a really good job with like the tension and the drama and like the storyline and all of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one, it's funny. So people will be like, Ashley, you dislike this movie because it got a lot of things wrong and you're a racing fan. And I'm like, you guys like it a lot because you are racing fans. As in, if you took out all the scenes of them
Mm-hmm.
racing in cars,
It was a bad movie.
it was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't
The
good.
the characters here's my English major take. The characters were not fleshed out. I've seen a lot of arguments that the women were
Yeah,
particularly bad,
we had to
and
get to
while
that.
I
Hmm.
absolutely agree, I also don't think any of the characters were particularly deeply fleshed out. I didn't quite understand why Sunny Hayes was so interested in racing so much, and why he wanted to come
Oh,
back.
interesting. I
They
actually
had
thought
a
I got that. I
little.
was like, oh, his father worked in racing and he died and he loved it. I was like, great, that makes
Yeah,
sense to
they
me.
had that, but then I was like, well, but why would you come back after all this time? And they had the like, he's flying. He wants to feel like he's flying. And I was like, that's okay, but it didn't feel like it emotionally resonated, so I didn't feel like I got it. I didn't quite understand why Joshua Pierce was racing. I didn't quite understand why Ruben Cervantes wanted to own that team in the first place, or why the investors
Yeah.
wanted to buy the team that was so shit. There were a lot of like,
There
there's
were a
a
lot of
lot of
like
it where it's like,
unfleshed out plot points that
yeah,
sometimes they bought up and then like we never
yeah,
talked about again and then it just
yeah.
was the way it was at the end and I was like, oh, why do we for me it's like Chekhov's gun is like a big thing that we learned when I was like
Hmm.
really into writing and took some classes at community college and they're like, if you're going to mention this, there's a reason you're
Yeah.
mentioning this
Yeah.
and it's very important to the plot later. And they mention a lot of things that we could
Yeah.
have really just done without. And we did
Yeah.
nothing with them. And I understand this movie had to
So,
go through a lot of reshoots and 3 years and
yes.
movies. You could tell. I could tell. But it was a 7. I would watch it again.
Hmm.
Maybe someone would be like, "What are we watching? I don't know. Do you want to watch something like already, lighthearted, that's actiony?" I'm gonna throw that on
Hmm.
there. Good summer blockbuster. They are correct that the general audience
Hmm.
will be like, "Oh my god, yeah, this is great."
Yeah. So it's got a great review rating on Rotten Tomatoes. This is people who saw the movie themselves, came on, and are either verified or unverified. 97% of people, or 97% of the reviews of the film that I saw yesterday, were positive. So this was people's 3.5 rating or higher, not like perfect 5. I don't use Letterboxd. I don't use anything. I use Rotten Tomatoes because I was writing an article. Um, but like the general folks
Yeah,
absolutely enjoyed it.
everyone
You know
seems
what I
like it's
mean?
like an
Like,
8 out of 10. It's kind of
yeah.
similar to you. I'm seeing the general reviews. I think Google has it like
Mhm.
76, 80%. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it did good. I like your point that you've mentioned here that you think it was marketed wrong
Thank you.
because I think that this is exactly where our opinions about this diverge the most.
As
So
in, you disagree that it was marketed wrong, or you agree it was marketed wrong?
I agree that it was marketed wrong.
Okay, in
I
what sort?
wholeheartedly agree with that, but my thing is like I'm glad it was
Oh,
almost.
interesting. Okay,
Um, and I like for me, it's not a negative thing, but I
sure.
understand why it is for you.
I don't think it's a negative thing. I just think the perception of what we're getting online because it was
Yes.
marketed incorrectly for certain groups of people is the
Yes.
issue. So I
Yes.
swear to fucking Jesus Christ, if someone says it's not a documentary one more fucking time, I'm gonna take an actual documentary and shove it up your ass. I never expected it to be a documentary. No one expected it to be a documentary. No one said the words documentary till all of you started parroting that same exact words. I don't
Mhm.
understand. Stop saying that. No one thinks it's a
But
documentary. No one
but
was like,
they
this is going to
did.
be perfect. Who?
They
Who?
did say it was accurate.
Oh,
They
wait.
said
We'll
it
get
was
there.
going to be
We'll
authentic.
get there.
This is the I think the
S-
sticking point for
But
where
this,
we diverge.
right. So everyone, people are like, it's not a documentary. Why is everyone so mad? Why is everyone so mad? Why is everyone so mad at the technicalities? Why is everyone mentioning this? It's not a documentary. First of all, no one said it was going to be a documentary. What they did say, director Joe Kaczynski was quoted, I want to make them, before, this was years ago. And he's
Mhm.
also quoted in the Porsche film saying this, said,
Mhm.
I want to make the most authentic racing film I could. And I have
Mhm.
articles from 2023 and 2024 when they first started talking about this. So they're so excited to work with Formula One. They want to show what Formula One is exactly like on the big screen, is the quote.
Mhm.
They want to work with the series because they want to get it right. They have
Mhm.
Lewis Hamilton to guide them through the technicalities of the race scenes. And they're talking about how they're working closely with Formula One, and this is how it was initially marketed. And
Mhm.
then there was a shift right before the movie.
Mhm.
I don't know if they talked to the drivers or they had like some screening with race fans specifically. There was a shift because Dominicali was like there was a point where they were obviously in Silverstone and talking about all this stuff. And he was saying that it is a kind of a detriment to the weekend. Like they're kind of in the way, not in like a negative. Like they're there and they're in the way. But it's so cool how closely they're working with the series to get it portrayed as authentically as a racing film can be with us. Then it shifts. Then recently, Dominicali goes, moviegoers with limited knowledge won't take any issue with racing scenes. If you look at it at a perspective of that audience that will watch the movie, it won't be perceived negatively.
Yeah. So they had a screening for the drivers in Monaco. And after the drivers came out, this is when that narrative, I think they started to have to change this because the drivers were like, it's very Hollywood. It's very Hollywood. No spoilers. It's very Hollywood. Like, if you're a racing fan, you're going to see that and you're going to go, that's not what Formula One is like. And then I think then the marketing of it had to take a
That's where
different
my
tack.
issue is, right? If you were touting it for years, and this was this switch happened within 6 months. So if you're not paying attention, well, not even 6 months, even less than that, because Monaco's in May, and now it's July. So less than that. When the switch happened, we've just been pushed so long that they're going to make it as authentic as possible. It's obviously called F1 because we worked through the series, and we're making it as such. I understand why people, like personally myself, was like a little thrown off. And other people where they're like, oh, they got almost everything wrong in the Formula 1 movie, guys. You don't understand. And it's fine. And I get it. You have to like tell a story. You have to find a line between realism, costs, and consistently telling a coherent story while keeping true to it. And I get it, right? Top Gun's not authentic. But when you go on like the subreddits, because I was Googling this yesterday, because I'm like, I'm not crazy. They were talking about how close the battles are and how some of the missions that they ran in the movies were very close because of the former Top Gun instructors that they had referencing in the movie. And that was really awesome. So when you're touting for years how authentic this is going to be, and we're taking F1 from the track to your living room to the big screen, and that is what you're constantly pushing, do not be surprised, anyone online, when they're like, oh, well, this was a little bit wrong. Like, you're so lucky that we're only saying it was a little bit wrong, because everything was wrong. Guys, you don't understand. You can't do anything that they did on there. Like, it's crazy. And I get it. When I step back and you're like, oh, this is to get people interested. This is not going to be authentic. This is just going to be fun. We worked the series to get a few scenes. We're having a good time. We're telling stories. We're doing blockbusters. Then in my mind, I was like, oh, this movie makes sense. That's perfect. No problems there. But do not tell me you're trying to make the most authentic racing movie ever.
Yeah.
And what we're going to talk about later being really pedantic. And it was like, none of this is authentic whatsoever.
So I don't think this is even an argument, but because I have been so much more like, this has been one of the things that I've been assigned to work on at Planet F1. I am, building my SEO credential covering this to prove like when we get the review out, people will actually read it.
Yeah.
So I have been following this, and I like that you pointed out that the narrative has shifted. But I think if you look at the the actors themselves, and you look at what they're saying, what they mean by accurate and authentic, it is very, very different than what you are talking about with like the racing itself, the the intentional wrecks, and like the sheer amount of penalty points and stuff that would have gotten. They're talking about things like how the driver walks around, how he stands when he is, at the
radio communications or something like
yeah,
that.
what the radio communications are like, how he drinks his espresso, what he does like off the track, what he would do in Las Vegas. They're talking about these very small, minute details that they are building off of. These are things that like Damson Idris, that Javier Bardem, they're seeing at the track. They're talking to they're talking to drivers, they talk to team principals. And these are the things they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
They are not conveying the big storytelling part. So I think we end up with this miscommunication because they're still touting this is accurate. This is very accurate.
Yeah.
Like because they still believe that. And I believe that they do feel that they did a very accurate job playing a Formula One driver. I don't think the storytelling and the post-production editing did a good job conveying what it is to be Formula One. And I think that is the inaccuracy part that is getting a lot of people so frustrated. And I completely understand that because, again, we have been hearing this is going to be an accurate and authentic movie. And then what they are showing us is kind of the racing you will never ever see in Formula
Right.
One. You will never see a driver stalling on the start grid to have very hot tires so that he can pass 9 cars at the start of the race. Like, you're not going to see these things. I also think that, like, some of it is like you cannot convey
Yeah,
accuracy and
absolutely.
authenticity in racing because it is racing. And you can't, especially with the crashes. I think a lot of people are like, oh, the crash, specifically the one in Monza where Damson Idris goes flying into the trees and gets burned. People were like, that one was so unrealistic. And I was like, but that crash happened. Not in F1, I will grant you. It happened in Formula 3.
It kind of happened in Formula 3. They like
Yeah,
combined crashes, which was the
they
issue.
did. They absolutely did. But they combined it also. They, as the history nerd, they pulled in um, Roger Roger Williamson's fatal accident.
Yeah.
They pulled in a lot of different like. So I could see exactly what they were talking about when they said accurate. I'm seeing that they referenced a lot of things and did a lot of things. They referenced a lot of history that is not accurate today. They pulled in a lot of detail that was accurate 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, that does not fly today. So I think that I was way more lenient because I was like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
they're never going to be able to convey this sport, nor do I want them to, because I already spend every week watching 2+ hours of Formula One. And if I want to go see something on the big screen, I want it to be bombastic and
Yeah.
audacious. And I want to get like sucked into the unreality of it and the kind of like the aspirational, like what I wish F1 could be. I certainly do wish that we could have fucking in the middle of an IMSA race, we could be like beating and banging on each other. I absolutely think I would love to see that.
Elizabeth
I would
wants an
love to see
American
these.
terrorist on the F1 grid to do
I
exactly what
do.
Sodia's does.
I do so bad. I want someone to come in there and just fuck their shit up because they can. That was like, so I could see where they, you know what I mean? I could see where they pulled the authenticity and I could see where they extrapolated the rest of the story from it. And so it didn't really bother me. But I also understand if you are not like firmly entrenched in this, where
Yeah.
you're looking at everything these actors are saying, every interview that Joseph Kosinski is doing, every interview that Stefano Domenicali is doing about
Dude,
this,
yeah.
you're not seeing the evolution or like what they are specifically referring to when they talk accuracy. And they're talking little details. They're not talking big picture portrayal of Formula One.
Yeah, so that threw me off in the beginning. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah.
with you. I was just
Yeah.
like watching this.
And I think it absolutely should. Like,
this doesn't make any. I was like, you can't do this. None of this is accurate. Nothing they're portraying in Formula One makes any sense. The fact that they said they're halfway through the season in January, I was like, why did we have
yeah.
to do that detail? You could have just said, oh, we're starting, and then like skipped a bunch of races and like just gone something. I was like, this is such like a weird. Why would you take this direction? And it was just like, what is? I just like,
Part of the problem also was that the way that they shot this movie and the script that they initially had, I think would have created like 10 hours of content in terms of movies.
you
So they
also had the
cut
writer's
down.
strike too in
You
between.
did. And
Yeah.
you had, so there was a lot that needed to be cut out and a lot of storylines that got cut. And so then you have parts of this film over here that had to get linked to this part over here, but you had the whole intervening storyline that would have given the context cut completely out because of
Yeah.
timing. So it was an absolutely messy execution.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that, like, I'm not going to deny that it absolutely was. But then you end up with those details of like, we're halfway through the F1 season. I think they wanted Sonny Hayes to be at Le Mans. I think that was what they were going
Oh,
for.
interesting.
And couldn't get the filming rights.
Yeah.
So they had to make it Daytona.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it was marketed so hard for years this way.
Yes.
At first, I was like, but yeah, I think it's the film is fine.
Yeah.
I do think people. It's frustrating when I say that online and people are like, oh, you just don't like it because you've been watching racing for 19 years. I've been watching movies for 33. I know what a good movie is to me. I can dislike a movie. I'm not being rude about it either. If someone's being rude, I understand why people get defensive and you're like, oh, you're just being a
Yeah.
dick about it. To me, I'm just like, no, I just didn't like it. I don't think the characters were fleshed out. I think it was fine. People were like, "How dare you not like it? It was just because it's not racing. It's not a documentary." I had to mute the word documentary from my timeline. I literally cannot. No one thought it was. They just
Yeah.
said they're gonna be authentic to it, so I thought they'd at least get the rules fucking right of their own series. But no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did
They
find that part, like that specifically, is so strange to me
which part?
because that they got the rules and stuff wrong because they're such sticklers for this stuff. Like every time Max Verstappen gets a penalty point, you got George Russell queuing up the fucking microphone to go, think of the children. What will the children feel? And then you have a movie that just shows the children that you can go out and be a menace on the racetrack. Like that part I could the, wrapping my mind around it. Very interesting.
Yeah,
I see
then
that
we go
Chuck
back
says
to the money.
F1 doesn't give a shit about the rules, the FIA does. But I do think that they have to come hand in hand here because the Formula One cares. You still get people in Formula One who are like, you have to treat Formula One like whatever. You know what I mean? So you have to treat it like it's this holy, sanctimonious thing.
Yeah.
But I did think it was still very perplexing because it is Formula One marketing in charge of this movie, and
They're
you have
pushing
to,
it so hard. The
yeah,
Canadian Grand Prix, shitty CGI on the hairpin. Fuck you, F1. Like I didn't want to watch. I'm watching the actual race. What am I watching a movie preview all of a sudden? Like you've turned. I think you texted this to me. The NASCARification of
of
F1.
F1.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what's happening. And I
yeah,
was just like, what am I doing? I'm trying to watch this race and I'm seeing this preview play. I was like, this is so weird. They have it
yeah,
above the podium ceremony for Austria. They made the camera angle so wide to constantly see it. I was like, I can see land. Like, can we zoom in, please? Like, I don't need to. I know this movie's out. You've not let
yeah,
me fucking forget about it. It's gonna be in like my brain chip the next time I get a vaccine. Like, I get it. I just like cannot. I just at this. It's just like why I'm so like exhausted of it. I'm just being pushed everywhere, and I
yeah.
think people are having really extreme opinions, negatively and positively.
Well, that's the stuff that clicks.
Because it's the stuff that clicks. So I'm seeing a
Yeah,
lot of
gets
YouTube
engagement.
reviews of like, there's this awful movie. They got everything wrong, and I was like, oh, they got a lot. Yeah, they got a lot of stuff wrong, but it's a movie.
Yeah,
Again, we're having a good time here. We're here for the cinema. I'm eating popcorn. I
yeah,
want to. If it was Michael Bay, I'd want to see some explosions. You know, like we're doing things. We're having a good time. It's 2 hours
yeah,
36 minutes. We're having fun. I get it, but it's just like, what do we? And then everyone's like, "Oh, this is the best movie I've ever seen." I was like, "Okay, simmer. Who the fuck are you paying? Who's paying you?"
It's not the best movie I've ever seen. I've been flirting with this. I read a lot of Substacks. I read a lot of Substacks. One of the Substacks I've been on to lately, one of these kicks, is curating your own personal canon. So
Yeah,
when you create a canon for like an author or like a genre of literature, you pull like what you think is the most representative things of that, genre of literature. I would put F1 in my personal canon of films and movies and music that I feel is like a representation of me that is a thing I really enjoyed.
yeah.
I did not think it was perfect, but I also, in my personal canon, have the 1994 film The Crow, which objectively is a very bad movie, but I
It's such a
love it
bad
so much
movie.
anyway. So this is the thing that's driving me crazy because the people who are talking about it, I think very publicly, are having the like we have to take a hard line stance.
Yeah,
It has to be either really bad or it has to be perfect. And I'm like,
it was
I
fun.
loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It was a hot mess at a lot of points, but that's also part of why I enjoyed it because it was not accurate, because it was not whatever. Like it was just fun. It was its own little universe, and I'm glad that we got that. I also I also am at the point of like I've watched all of these historical movies. So like you see Rush, you see
yeah,
Ferrari, you see Ford versus Ferrari.
yeah.
Those piss me off more because they are based on history. And when they get those like certain facts or elements or change things, then I get frustrated because I'm like, well, this was reality. And now you're changing. And I know that we have to Hollywoodify it because I know we got to put this into a 2 hour film.
Yeah.
But that frustrates me. With this one, it was so nice to not care. It was so where I was like, I don't
Interesting.
give a shit if it's accurate because it's not a real movie. It's not based on reality. Yeah, there are real drivers in it, but I don't like if the racing is fake, I don't care. If the storyline is fake, I don't care. If these things couldn't happen, I don't care because it's not, I don't know, it's not supposed to be a true story. So I
Hmm.
was like, let's go. Let's see what, let's take the confines of F1 and expand them and see what we can do to have fun.
Yeah. And if they marketed it that way from the beginning,
Yes.
I would have been
Yes.
50 times more fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, it threw me off when I was watching the movie theater, and I was just like,
I think this is the main sticking point. Like the marketing of it was the problem. Because they kept pushing this accuracy thing. I'm like I
you can't formula
sort
motorsport,
of.
motorsports as a whole is, I mean, never going to be as popular as other stick and ball sports, etc., because it's hard to explain in X amount of time in the confines of it. And I get it. You can't explain everything. He was talking to Joshua Pierce's mother, and she's like, "Oh, we're doing well because you did poorly in qualifying." He's like, "Yeah, sometimes you got to suck to win." And I was like, "Okay, that's a weird way to explain that he has an extra set of softs." Because
But
yeah, I guess sure.
to a lay person, yeah.
Great,
It makes
awesome.
sense.
Well, then I had people DMing me this weekend, and someone's like, "I only watched race highlights. I saw the movie, and I saw your thoughts about it. I was wondering why in Austria they didn't do X, Y, Z. If you can have an extra set of softs, why would you always want to do Q3?" And I was like, "See, now I understand what. Like now people are gonna be just fucking confused. They're gonna tune into Formula One because it's authentic and be like, this is nothing like the movie that I just watched.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna be like, correct. This is nothing like the movie we just watched." So
this is yeah, I completely agree with that 1,000%. They kept saying it's like so true to life, and it's not. And I think for me that's fine.
yeah,
But for
100%.
I don't know, motorsport, Formula One in particular, there are 7,000 pages of regulations and rules. I don't want it to be accurate, but also if you're going to show this to new audiences and get them involved, you have to also be prepared for the fact that people are going to have no fucking clue what's going on because you just kind of were winging it. And that's okay. But like, oh, I don't know. That's this is the main thing. I'm like, you can't make those rules interesting.
Agreed.
You can't make actual F1 like you can make it interesting, I guess, but you also have to, for it to be interesting, you have to have this base level of knowledge. And they're assuming that F1 movie viewers are probably not going to have that base level of knowledge. They're not going to know the technical regulations like me, fucking inside and out. They're not going to know the sporting regulations. They're not going to know what gets you a penalty point because they're probably not going to know what a penalty point is, let alone a super license.
100%.
So I was like, whatever. That did not bother me. But I also completely understand where you're coming from of like, yeah, that's going to piss off a lot of people. That's going to confuse a lot of people. That's going to make a lot of people like, you're going to tune into an F1 race after you've watched this and be like, weird. They kept saying this was true.
Yeah, no one said the word documentaries. We just heard authentic. And so all the racing movies before obviously weren't as authentic. They take a lot of liberties. And I was like, okay, they're obviously going to take some liberties here.
Yes.
But they took
a lot.
They took a lot of liberties. And that's again, they didn't market it as such. Again, the word's authentic. We're working with the series. It's going to be so close. It's going to be so cool to see how we're going to move F1 from like all this stuff that we just said. So, yeah, if you want a summer blockbuster that you're just going to have fucking fun and not give a shit about anything that's happening and you're just looking for cool, fast cars and Brad Pitt, by all means, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. This is going to do numbers. 100%. It's already doing numbers. Apparently, they're looking for a sequel. I don't know if that's actually true or like that was a rumor that has spread like wildfire because people have been talking nonstop about this movie and they're taking advantage of it to keep talking about it. So it's just like, let's go.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the marketing of like, this is going to be pretty authentic. We worked really closely with the series. This is going to be great. We really took Formula One and put it into a movie format. Do not watch it. You will be sorely disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's its own little thing. It's its own little universe.
That's cool.
It is not. Yeah, it is not Formula One that we know.
I just need a second. I
was gonna say, I think if you went into it with that mindset of like, I'm going to see an accurate film, I understand why you're disappointed. I understand
semi-accurate.
Yeah, I understand why it's not even a smidge near what you thought it was going to be. I get that entirely. I think I had the different perspective just following it way more closely and seeing what they were describing as the accurate things that are going to be in the movie, where I was like, I don't know about, I know that how drivers physically move in their space is an important thing to capture, but I don't think it's the only important thing to capture if you want to call it an accurate movie.
Right.
But, I'm not in charge, so nothing I can do about it.
Pierre Gasly was interviewed by Men's Health recently, or like the article just came out, and you were talking about the movie, and he's like, how accurate was it? He's like, we work out really hard. And obviously it's men's health and that's what he's talking about, but he like, that's all they talk about. They don't talk about like the
Yeah.
actual racing. He's like, yeah, it is really stressful on a race weekend. And then we race, and then we now are back to talking to our teams. That's accurate. It's like that. He's avoiding everything not to say like all the other stuff. And I wonder if they were like trained or told. There was a funny a funny video, like a behind the scenes clip that someone grabbed when they were all on top of the Empire State Building doing their promo in New York City. And Christian Horner goes, do I have to fucking watch this F1 movie again? Or like, do I have to fucking watch this movie again? Or something like that. And I was like, as soon as he said that, as soon as I saw that clip, I was like, fucking makes sense. It makes sense. He's so into it, right? Like he's definitely one of those people that's like way too into it. He's done. He's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He truly cannot enjoy the movie in like a fun, silly way. He's like, this is insane. You're wasting all of my time watching this film. And he's like, I don't want to fucking see this one more time. Please.
Yeah. I think what they did there was I don't know, that was the miss to me, was the marketing element of it, because otherwise, as we've mentioned a couple of times, like this has been a big success.
Yeah.
There is it made $144 million globally. Part of that, a small part of it in the US, but a very large part of it outside of the US. Critically, what they have found is that it is reaching beyond the like dad genre audience, where Ferrari and Ford versus Ferrari and Rush were like, you go and watch that with your dad kind of movies, and your dad's gonna love this. This one is expanding its reach to younger audiences and to women and to, people who are not dads who like
The
fast car and Christian
stereotypical.
Bale. Yeah.
We're getting that younger demographic. And yeah, if you're looking at it from the fun, silly, have a good time perspective, summer blockbuster, marketing to get new fans in, I understand now that Dominicali is saying that he's so excited that we're trying something new to get new fans in and not just Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
I'm not worried and not like concerned. I do wonder the conversion, because I think yes, Drive to Survive does take its moments to have inaccuracies. It's still pretty close. They do move audio.
You do at least get a sense of what a race is like to watch, or what a season is like to experience
the rules,
as a fan.
something around there, right? Like the general rule set of why someone got in trouble, someone's not racing, Max is mad because this happened, so and so is mad because this happened. Like we get the general sense. They do. There are exaggerations. It is not 100% accurate. It's somewhere in there. But someone's gonna watch this movie, as they have in my DMs, and then go watch a race and be like,
Yeah. That was
this is actually kind of boring, guys. No one's crashing out on purpose.
I think we should be generous, a little more generous, because my getting into F1 story was because I saw Russian theaters, and I said, ain't no way that's a movie, or like, ain't no way that was real life. Went home, researched it, and found out. And
yeah, that's a good point.
It is not accurate to what Formula One was.
That's true.
Even in the 70s, there was a lot of liberties taken in that movie. But when I tuned into the 2013 like Korean Grand Prix or whatever is my first one, I was like, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. I love it.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be an issue just because of the modern aspect. You're definitely correct of like
we could lose people, but we're probably going to gain more people than the loss. Doesn't matter.
I definitely I'm watching it. I'm like, well, that was 1976 and now this is 2013. So there's a little bit of a time difference. So I'm expecting everyone to be different. This is like, I saw a 2025 movie and tuned into a 2025 race. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? But I do think that there is still at least the positive aspect of like getting it in front of audiences, making it a fun watch instead of I don't know. I just don't know how they could have made the movie super accurate and
100%.
also had it be the summer blockbuster it wanted.
Yeah.
So I come back to the marketing of it. Stop calling it an accurate film, because it's not. It's a blockbuster. It's an F1 movie. It's F1 what they want you to see. It's F1, that they want you to get involved in. But yeah, I think there will be I don't know. I don't want to say like a big conversion, but I do think that there's going to be at least some amount of conversion that we see of people who are like, well, this is a lot different than what I expected it to be, but I still enjoyed it or I still, want to give it a chance. I want to learn more, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Let's just say Vegas prices are going to ramp up even faster now. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, in the United States, it's been doing pretty well, but yeah, we'll see how the ticket prices overall. Yeah. It's WWE's F1 and it's entertaining. Yeah, if they market it like that, that 100% makes sense. If you say it in WWE,
I'd be fucking in.
I do agree with Chap here. The single largest marketing failure for them was not to drop this alongside Drive to Survive. I'm like, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Man, if they called it Drive to Survive, I totally would have preferred that. Than like F1 the movie. Because it makes, again, it comes into that authenticity where it's like F1 the movie.
I know. This is F1.
It's like,
they could have called it Apex GP, like someone said last week, and it would have made so much more sense. It would have been, I don't know, accurate. It still would have gotten the point across.
Yeah, 100%. Do we want to talk about any technicalities for like 30 minutes or like some fun things pedantically that they definitely got wrong in the film or touch on anything?
Several of my notes involved, can Sonny Hayes even get a super license?
Yeah, we're going to be really pedantic now. This is the stuff that we notice that really doesn't matter, right? But this is for fun. Again, we're being super pedantic. This is, if you watch the movie and weren't aware of these things, this is going to be fun. This is all good jest in the next funny thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest thing is he does not have a super license.
Yeah, I was like,
I cannot race in Formula One.
Yeah. I was like, did they give him a pass? Did he, like, what happened? I also, I love his, the most minor thing that drove me crazy was that he could just show up in the pit lane with his, like, satchel, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Sir, you would not have gotten into the pit lane in Abu Dhabi without a pass and a credential. And he didn't have one because he was fired. Like, you absolutely, like, they don't let anyone out there. They they don't let you come out that way. That was like one of those minor nitpicks of like, this man's walking down the pit lane, showing up out of nowhere. Security would have stopped his ass. He wouldn't have even gotten in the gates.
The very first scene where he gets out of his van, you're not allowed to park there. At the Daytona 24, you're not allowed to park there. That is not a parking spot. I don't care what anyone says. You can't park there. I also, this one's not a critique. This one's just more interesting to me that this is how they're building his character to us, is that they knock on his window. And they say 10 or 15 minutes, right? Or like,
yeah,
they give to me, a small amount of
15
time
minutes, yeah,
to get ready to race. And like, I don't know drivers, right? Some drivers may do that and I just don't know. Other drivers I've observed, they definitely want a heads up.
Yeah.
They definitely need to get ready. They need to start like seriously working out. Like they'll start doing jumping jacks. They'll start doing some like reaction tests, just to wake up,
getting their brain into it.
There's talking with their pit crew and everyone there to see what's happening, what they need to do, the strategy for the next coming hours that they're in. It takes a little, like it takes time, a minimum 30 minutes. I'm not critiquing. I don't know. I don't know what some drivers might do that, and that's just their way. That's what it is. So I'm not critiquing it. That's not a thing. But I'm just like 15 minutes. This man did like 2 pull-ups, had a banana, and called it a day. And I was like, what are you doing?
Like, that man, he needs more sustenance, especially because they go onto like a 7-hour stint in the car.
Yeah.
He would have been get him a chicken breast and some pasta.
Some broccoli. So Brad makes a good point. Yeah, Sonny Hayes is just that good. He doesn't need that bullshit. Yeah, and that's what I think they were trying to build, that he's just like, he's a savant, doesn't need time to warm up. Get him in the car. He's the best racing car driver in the fucking world. Okay? Yeah. We're just throwing him in there.
Again, another thing for me that a nitpick that I had is like, they're positioning him as this like naturally stunning driver and this natural like perfect talent. I get that. I'm okay. I'm all in for it. But why didn't he try to go back to F1 after his crash if that was the case?
Yeah. He was just so hurt. He had to wait for someone. Yeah, the whole Brad Pitt character is weird, right? Like, okay, so they mention he's a degenerate gambler, but he lives in a Ford E-Series, which is like, at most was $6,000 when he bought it. Yeah. But he can buy Apple AirPods. And he definitely has money from winning races, if he's so as good as he says. He also gets offered a full-time IMSA seat with his GTD Pro team. He's like, nah. Yeah. I'm like, what driver would say no to that? And like, does he need the money?
He wants to go to Baja.
Does he need the money? He can race Baja and IMSA. They don't conflict. IMSA doesn't give a shit, and his team won't give a shit. And I didn't buy that he was a degenerate gambler, and like that's why he doesn't have any money.
I wonder if that was one of the storylines they cut.
Because they won't give him a Rolex. He's like, I won't touch the Rolex because he has the IWC watch that he prefers. But I was like, but if you were a real degenerate gambler, you would take the Rolex and pawn it.
Yeah.
Like, we never saw like acts of desperation. We just see him living in a van, and like the character to me that was built, that he was just like, I like doing these one-offs. I'm just chasing the feeling, and I haven't found it since Formula One. Doing Daytona, I won. I don't care. I'm gonna do Baja, win, see if I feel it again. Like he's a drifter. As Whitesnake said, born to walk alone. You know, he was a gambler looking to fly, not a degenerate. But yeah, I didn't get the gambling thing. He had a pack of cards, and he was good at fucking poker whenever they played Texas Hold'em at that one time. But I like just didn't get that storyline, that he like all his money's gone, or is it gone? Because he should have a lot of money actually.
Yeah. Gambling is like a cars in terms of risk is how I took it. That's kind of part of it as well. Is like they did the gambling thing, I think, to signify that this is a man who takes a lot of risks. So then it makes sense that he's going to get behind the wheel and then do all of this crazy shit strategy wise in the plan C for chaos stuff. I see where they were trying to do that. I don't think it got across quite as well as they wanted it to, and I wonder if they, again, if that was something that they had written into it that ended up getting cut because there was not enough time to discuss that.
Yeah.
But it did feel like kind of it was like, I was willing to roll with it. Whatever, let's go, send it. But yeah, I absolutely see where you're coming from.
He doesn't look rugged driving a six-figure super bus. Yeah, I like what Brett said. The whole film described him as down to earth. Yeah, I guess minimalistic, rugged approach to driving.
Yeah.
Living, working out. That 100% made sense. That I caught on to. Yeah. So when you can't park there, Nims, at Daytona 24, you probably need a little bit more time. Gets in the car. That was pretty cool. They also had a Porsche factory driver, honestly, like switch seats with him. That's who it is, Patrick. Mm-hmm. He's a winner himself. I believe Le Mans 24 winner, American Le Mans winner, Daytona 24 winner, an actual Porsche driver, which is cool. The team that he's driving for, the team name itself is fake, but the car itself is Wright Motorsports, and that's a real team that they use, which is pretty cool. Elliott Skier, Adam Adelson. You might know the Adelsons. Google it if you don't. His father was RIP because he passed away a couple years ago, but was worth $30 billion. Adam Adelson's living the life, man. He bought Wright Motorsports recently too. So they're living the life. Yes, chap. So he's living the dream. That was cool. He takes off from the pits. He's got new tires, fuel, cold tires, cold brakes, and a heavy car. This man gets out of pit lane, immediately comes in the middle of a three-way battle of cars who've been on the track longer with lighter cars, up to temperature tires. And I think one was like one was an LMP or GT, one was a GTP, and one was another GTD. I don't think it was two GTDs. I think one was a car and another one was a GTD. And he's in the middle of a three-way battle and automatically like wins that battle. And I was like, you can't. You would maybe you can't. You just wouldn't be up to speed with him that quick. That doesn't make any sense. Also, someone in the chat yesterday noticed that the Lexus behind him was not an actual GT3 Lexus. It was just a road Lexus. I guess no one wanted to sacrifice their road Lexus. He was racing against AM drivers who were all scared. Well, technically, Ben Keating is an AM/bronze driver, and he is not scared, let me tell you. Sonny Hayes is on the track. They're like, oh, shit, guys. We know what he's going to do. Fucking crash us out to win. He races another car, Turner Motorsport, which is a real team, which is pretty cool. Will Turner is actually at the New York City movie premiere. He owns the team. And they are racing to bus stop. For some reason, the Turner Motorsports car decides not to brake. He totally could have and not done this ridiculous crash into the grass or like skid across the grass. This did not have to happen like this. Like, I just like don't understand. The fireworks would not do that. The fireworks are a 10, not a 12 or 10:30, 10:30, and not at midnight. There's also no fireworks on, like, that was so overdramatized, but it was fun. It looked pretty. Like, I'm not going to be mad about it. Yeah. The helicopter CGI'd. I was like, why is it flying so low? What are we doing? This is wild. Getting in there. Sonny gets out of the car. Remember, he gets in at like 11:53, somewhere around midnight. And then he gets out and the sun has risen. When he gets out of the car, you hear Lee Diffie say, Sonny Hayes getting out of the car finally. It's been a triple stint for him, and they're now leading the race. So, by that, I am deducting that he's driven for 7 hours. And it was a triple stint. None of that fucking makes sense. You're not allowed to drive in IMSA. You're not allowed to drive more than 4 hours in a 6-hour period. So one, broke the rules, immediately disqualified. You can't be doing that. Two,
No, you're winning.
they said triple stint, which confused me. Like, I don't, again, like, see, stuff like that. Like, why did they say triple stint? I guess because they were trying to keep it triple. They knew he couldn't actually do 7 hours. Like,
Yeah.
this is, because he drove 7 hours, this should be his 7th stint. His triple double. This should be like his 7th or 8th stint. And he didn't hand off the car to anyone. He said they drove through the night completely. And then he hands off the car to someone and says, keep it. And they win Daytona and all that stuff. So yeah, if we're being really pedantic, they didn't get the sports car racing stuff. Oh, hands it off to Patrick Log. Okay. So yeah, the IMSA stuff, I was like, oh wow. Okay. I mean, we try to be accurate. That's fun. They didn't actually race during the actual Daytona 24, which makes sense because you cannot do that because they're actually racing. But yeah, it was stuff like that was interesting. Then he goes to a laundromat.
Where Javier Bardem
just
somehow finds him. Like, just happens to know he'd be in that laundromat.
So I guess he's been following him or like watched Daytona. Yeah. Someone in the Discord, I think it was Pericles, made another really good point. Let's say all of this is fine, right? Let's say someone did this, right? He pulled off a 7-hour, it's J Page, pulled off a 7-hour stint, put the team in a winning position, wins the 24 hours of Le Mans. Then he goes to try out for the F1 car and nobody's heard about him. No one in the racing world in that F1 team has heard of this amazing feat that this driver's pulled off in the 24 hours of Daytona in the X number of days that has passed. That is wild to me. Like, no one, like...
I mean, okay, let's be honest. Do you think anyone in the Formula One paddock would really give a fuck about a GTD driver winning the Daytona 24?
Yeah, especially if he drove for 7 hours straight.
No, absolutely not. Max would. There's like 5 people in that paddock who would care, and I doubt any of them work for Apex GP.
I'm begging y'all to realize there's a time gap between Daytona and the Laundromat Drifter. What's the time lapse? Is it halfway through the season? Is it 6 months, chap? F1 not caring about their series is definitely accurate. The lapses is you got to get your laundry supplies first.
Yeah.
And that's what they drive. There was a lot of product placement. I will agree that it was subtle.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Wasn't too bad. Yeah, he gets offered a full-time IMSA ride, denies it. Fine, whatever. That's fucking wild. But yeah, there's so many drivers who would fucking... I mean, I don't think anyone would say no. He refuses to touch the Rolex because it's bad luck, even though he just won the race. I understand, like, drivers don't kiss the bricks before they win Indianapolis, whether it's the 8-hour or the 500, because that's bad luck. But you, my brother in Christ, you won the race. You can touch the Rolex.
Maybe it's part of his gambling rituals.
Oh, interesting. See, like that one. Maybe. I don't know. Am I supposed to just assume that? It's just confusing.
See, I love this film because I'm a creative writer at heart and I can just make shit up. I'm connecting the dots. I've got lore for this film.
He's a phobia of trophies in general. He didn't want any of the trophies. Yeah, it happened several times in the film, which is like, I just never made that connection as to like why he just didn't give a shit. I think the storyline of the board, the board giving X amount of races was just like kind of like that. I could suspend disbelief. It just, the timeline didn't make sense, and the guy trying to undermine him was introduced too late. Like, we should have realized he was a villain from the very beginning when he got there, as opposed to be like, oh, this is my friend. We don't see him for like an hour. Then he comes back, and he's like, and I was like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, I thought like he was just comic relief in like the initial scene where they introduce him, because they introduced him to Sonny Hayes on the grid, and he's like, Drive to Survive. Like, you know, I just learned about what Formula One is, but then the next time they introduce him, he's a wheeling, dealing, scheming machine trying to get in charge of this F1 team. I was like, I would have loved a little more there.
Yeah, he didn't seem like a villain. He just seemed like a guy. More. Yeah, he just seemed like a guy who was like, oh, I watched Drive to Survive.
Incompetent. That was the thing. Like, he seemed like kind of an idiot. You know, he's just like a guy who has a lot of money and just throws it.
Yeah, it seemed like a sponsor that just got into Formula One and they were making fun of that or poking fun at that because of Drive to Survive. I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was a villain until like way later. The submitting plans, that's what scrutineering's for. None of that would have happened. None of that would have happened. That's not a thing. Yeah. You also, any strategy that Sonny Hayes deployed during the race, you cannot do. You cannot do anything that he did on that track.
I loved it. I thought it was fun. I'm glad I got to live it, if not in reality, then in a fictional world. But like, I don't know. very funny of like, I'm just gonna hit people. I'm gonna bring out multiple safety cars so that my teammate can get position. It was a movie about race fixing for like quite a while.
Which again, when you have the marketing behind you of being like, oh, this is accurate, I was like,
Yeah.
an F1 signed off on this? That you guys are just
I
like cheating?
That
This
was
is
the crazy.
wild.
That was the part that most perplexed me because I was like, if I write an article and even like hint that there is some collusion going on in Formula One in some ways, like they would absolutely get my ass. They would be like, you can't say that. You can't imply that. You can't talk about that. Like, you can't. I was like, they just put this out for everyone to see? Dang.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay. Now, once that started happening, and I was like, wait, they're okay with this? Oh, they
Yeah.
actually, this is not accurate, and they don't care. This is for fun. I was like, okay. Mind shift started switching.
Yeah.
Yeah, for interesting enough, for some reason, when they were in races and they would like put on softs and hards, in the I believe in the pit lane it was accurate, but when you got on track, the tires were not accurate. And I was like, you couldn't just fix the color. Like, I guess it didn't matter if people don't know what color softs and hards and mediums are.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I thought you just put on softs and then it was like a white wall tire. And I was like, you couldn't just CGI that in post? And this is where the whole
Yes.
accurate thing comes in because you're like, oh, Lewis Hamilton's producer, he's obviously giving them notes and be like, oh, you could just change that real quick, or just like
Yeah.
paint it red for the next scene or
Yeah.
something like that. Um, him playing a game of telephone. What's the pit wall for? Just direct him to Joshua. Fire your pit wall.
Yeah.
Save some money there. They definitely went over the cost cap. They like had the safety of the pit crew, of him being put on tires and then throwing a tantrum got to me too. I'm like, you would immediately be fired if you were
Yeah.
any other driver and did that. They're absolutely not having Lewis identify tire colors to an SRI. No, but you're telling me that he didn't watch like 20 minutes of the first fucking thing and been like, oh, that's not correct. There were stuff. There's like stuff that's smaller and it's just like downshifts. I mean, like upshifts
Yeah.
into braking stuff. And I'm like, no one's really looking into that. Like, except racing fans. Like, that's fine. Whatever. You can let that go.
I think the one that got me was Javier Bardem being shocked in the hospital after Sonny Hayes has his crash. Like, I didn't realize your injuries were so bad. And they're showing the footage of this Sonny Hayes crash from like 1983, which is a Martin Donnelly crash, an actual legitimate real life crash that has happened. And I was like, his lower half was like twisted around the wrong way. Um, like I don't know how you don't realize his injuries are that bad.
Right.
You can look at that and tell this is probably not a man who should ever get behind the wheel again because his spine is just, if it is somehow intact after that, it is now just waiting.
He's also
just
definitely not
snap.
running Baja with a broken back
Yeah,
like that.
I know.
But don't get me wrong, the Baja thing was cool. I was like, you're totally not doing that after one, this injury in Formula
I
1 and
know.
2 with your back like that. I was like, this is the worst series you could
Yeah.
possibly think of besides racing over rocks in a lawnmower. Like, I can't think of anything else worse than him. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand how you just wouldn't know that or how you could come to him to hire him for that because that was part of why
He was
I
his
thought he
teammate,
hadn't
wasn't
gone
he?
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that was why I thought he hadn't gone back to F1 because he had this very severe injury that he knew if he got into another accident it would be a problem, but he can do the lower tier stuff because it's like, I don't know, not going as fast or whatever the situation is. I was like, okay. And then that happened and I was like, oh, so he couldn't he
Right.
could have done F1 this whole time or he couldn't have or what something. I don't know. I don't know. I was like that part got me. That was the first I think that was the major part of the movie that pulled me out of it. And I was like, "Wait, how do you he was looking at his foot like backwards on the track. You're
Yeah.
telling me you didn't think his spine was damaged? The real life guy that crash was inspired by could not walk after it.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that he was walking is a miracle.
You bring up a really good point, taking out of it, and I think when we talked about earlier about the marketing, that's what happened to me. It's just like this, the fact they were touting all
Yeah.
that marketing, and then I saw the first couple, like the first like hour of the movie, I was like, I just like couldn't, I was just completely taken out of the world, completely. And
Yeah.
I was like, then I was trying to like, once I realized, I was like trying to get back in and enjoy it, but it was like too late for me in the theater, and I had to like sit
Hmm.
in it and be like, ugh, because it's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fucking build a car for combat. Shut the fuck up. It takes longer than a week to build a new floor. Also, the technical director, they combined her role with like 60 other technical roles. Like
Yeah.
she would not be doing those things, and like it was just like. I also everyone's like, oh, I love to see the wind tunnel in Formula One that they use, and I was like, it doesn't look like this. This is not how it looks like.
Yeah.
And two, they didn't actually do anything. They just like moved the machine around and the parts flying around. I was like, I understand why they're doing this. They're not actually, and it doesn't look like this. Everyone's like, oh, this is so cool behind the scenes. It's like it doesn't look like that. It doesn't.
They don't know.
I know.
No one knows.
Again, we're being pedantic. We're being very pedantic. But I felt weird because 100% she did. If she left a job, she is getting paid less. That is that is 100%. That is, I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad Formula One recognizes they don't pay shit. Amen. I did dislike how she's obviously supposed to be a very smart, independent woman, and immediately, right? I mean, we've heard about how the women are portrayed, just like, oh my god, I'm going to sleep with you because you're just so charming, and I'm going to listen to everything you say because you definitely have all the years of experience that I have as a technical director in modern Formula One that you haven't been to in 30 years.
Yes, hold on.
Killed me. And I was like, Jesus, why are we listening to him? And then the strategy, right? Again, why do we have these pit wall people? This strategist all on your pit wall, everyone who's working on these cars, who's been here for decades, and suddenly Sonny Hayes can figure out the strategy in 2 seconds playing a game of telephone.
You know, the character I think I liked the most in this whole movie, Sonny Hayes' race engineer. The man who, like, I was like, this is the most accurate portrayal of someone who...
The one who wanted the Ferrari constructors?
Yeah, like, no, not him, not him. The guy in his radio.
Oh, and the glasses? The redhead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what I love that character of just like this is a man who probably got promoted too quick because he's working in a team that's not very good and is now being told everything about everything. Like his driver's telling him, "All right, here's what we're gonna do."
Yeah, that was a good fun. Yeah, so with the mechanic, right? She messes up. Joshua yells at her.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt comes to save her, and they have like a weird conversation where he's in an ice bath by the tire stuff, which would again never happen because that's not how they're situated in a racetrack. And then suddenly she becomes like we completely forgot about her, and then suddenly she becomes better, or like he inspired her to work harder, or some shit like that. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? I wish I thought when I first saw us, they were going to take us behind the scenes of what it's like to be a mechanic in the F1 team, like a little bit, and like he's working out, they're doing their stuff, they're practicing, they're going to show her in the like at the factory, like practicing pit stops or something. I was like, oh, they're showing both, and I was like, this is going to be fun. They just never showed her anywhere again except doing runs with him at Spa, and I was like, oh, we didn't really do. He just gave her a motivational speech.
Yeah.
If Brad Pitt gave me motivational speeches, I'm sure I would do better at my job too. It was just Sunny's such a Mary Sue. It was she's been sufficiently motivated. She's got 2 hours to be fine. Yeah, the romance again unneeded. You could have just been friends. You really could have just been friends.
Yeah, I think that was another thing where I'm like, I don't know. I have a take on this that I cannot share publicly, but I will tell you later, Ash.
Okay, about what?
About this, about the romance plot line.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna write that down so we don't forget.
Yeah. It's not a very generous take, so I'm not gonna say it out loud where people can hear me.
That's fair. I do find it fun that they celebrated a race win, though someone was probably celebrating the win of a championship. They were like, "Yeah, Apex GP won a race." I also don't understand why they would qualify constantly P19 and P20. Are they constantly just bringing upgrades and getting demoted? Like they would start from pit lane. If your car is so good in race pace and you can figure it out, surely Sonny can figure something out in fucking qualifying where you start in the back and the first race that we see them, all that stuff happens fine. And then as we progress through the other races, they're P15, then they're P13, then they're P6. Why are we constantly P19, P20? What are we doing? Why can't you qualify?
I thought they mentioned that the qualifying they'd improved.
They were always P last in qualifying, and they would set up on the grid on the race day, P19, P20. They would always be in the back, and I'd be like,
yeah.
Sonny, I thought you were only smart during the race. Do you turn it off every day between Monday and Saturday, and Sunday suddenly you're the genius savant that we need?
Well, they're saving their tires.
At Spa they were P6, P7, but starting from the back is more exciting. I didn't. But in the last race, they started in the back. It was because he had to fill in for the driver, though it would never
Yeah.
happen because you have to qualify.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Josh had to start in the back.
Yeah.
I bet it had to
For
do
some
more with
reason.
F1 requiring them to put the cars in for filming.
Yeah, I just don't think they ever explained it because they had to do that.
Yeah, they never explained qualifying, which is fine. This is again for me when they're like accurate, and I was like, ooh.
The one,
Thank you, Brad, for that.
my minor take that threw me off was they're not practicing for the Baja 1000 in December when the F1 season is over.
Yeah.
Because that race happened already. That would have happened before Las Vegas. So that race wouldn't have. It's over. It's done.
Yeah, the whole
You
time.
don't-
But time is. This is the one thing I could
No
suspend.
one knows
right?
that. The chef
Yeah,
no one knows
exactly.
that. This is my minor nitpick.
Yeah, when you're saying accurate racing movie, this is what I get. Okay, accurate racing movie. You're barking at that. I just like don't get why they can't have the timeline correct. It's like if no one cares and no one knows that, and only we race fans know that. There's no reason. You mentioned Le Mans, and that's probably why
Yeah.
that he wanted to race there, couldn't get the rights. Man, you're telling me you couldn't film? You know they filmed the Louis Vuitton fucking trophy shit recently, within like the
Yeah,
last
I know.
year. There's no way they can't get Javier Bardem again in a laundromat, being like, "Oh, we're just starting the season."
I know.
Yeah, time was broken. Oh yeah, Sonny shows up for Silverstone and says I won last Sunday, referring to Daytona. Yeah, that I could suspend because it's movie time, whatever. But it
Yeah.
was definitely like if you could get anything right, why wouldn't you get the timing right and like the tire wall colors right? Like just the laundromat is months later. Pretend there was but there wasn't
Okay, but
one.
you say that, but that's the thing. He wins Daytona, he goes to the laundromat, and then they go to Silverstone, and the next weekend at Silverstone they say last weekend
Yes.
he won
When's the last
Daytona.
time you won a
I
race?
won last weekend.
Last Sunday. I
Yeah.
meant Formula One. Then the same as you. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, I hated that Carlos Sainz line. Be like, "Oh, you're an F1 driver? Yeah, can you introduce me to Carlos Sainz?"
I thought it was funny.
Oh, I hated that line. I was like,
You didn't
"Alright."
like it?
I didn't like it.
I've definitely
Does she
been
not know he's a Formula One driver? First of all, attractive man.
probably not.
Two, do you not know he's a Formula One driver?
If he wasn't in Drive to Survive, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to be bitch about it or anything, but like, also,
Yeah, by all means.
there are a lot of people out there who I don't think they know who the drivers on the grid this year are. Like, do you think they would recognize the rookies because they haven't been in Drive to Survive, because they haven't seen them, gotten to know their stories?
Can you introduce me to Max's cats? Yes. Fun fact: where they had that Las Vegas party, that's where Red Bull did one of their party. They had like a car suspended from the ceiling. It was like really
That's
fun.
cute.
I thought that's what they were filmed in when we went to Vegas. I was like, oh, that's cool, but no, that was not it. It's the same club. So most people in Vegas in the 20K suites can't pick more than 5 from a lineup. I'd wager. That's fine. I think that line annoyed me because all the female characters were not portrayed well.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we can have really smart women. We can have women who want to just talk to Carlos Sainz. Like, if there was a balance, that would have been fine. But the fact that it's all like a negative light, and I was like, they're adding to the trope of like women in F1 only care about the drivers. Of course, Sonny has to tell a woman who probably has a PhD in aerodynamics how to run a strategy and build a new floor. Like, ugh. Blah. Yeah, these are the little things that don't matter, and I completely understand that. I just want people to know we are being pedantic for that past hour that we were reviewing. But yeah, overall, I think Elizabeth and I thought this movie was like an 8. I said 7.5. It was fine. Good summer blockbuster. If you care about technicalities, it is not authentic.
H-Cats, I want to fight you on this. This is what my Substack is. The F1 movie did not pass the Bechdel test. That's a shit metric. That is a shit metric for anything. I would like to ask you, I don't think I've passed the Bechdel test most race weekends that I've worked at, if I'm completely honest. Ash, are you familiar with this concept?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my whole Substack. God damn it, you did it on purpose. Fuck. Yeah. I wrote my whole Substack on it. I think it's a very bad metric because there are very good movies that feature very great female portrayals that do not pass the test because they like Gravity. I liked
Right.
Gravity. There's only a man and a woman in that movie, so there's no chance for that to happen. But also, if I'm working in F1 weekend, the chances of me talking to anyone about anything that is not a dude, because I am covering dudes, very unlikely.
Yeah.
Very unlikely.
Yeah, it was more so all the things that we mentioned before of like how just
Yeah.
in general like their jobs are portrayed and how
Yeah. That was the thing. Like I saw multiple people making this argument, like in their actual reviews, and it was driving me crazy because I was like, maybe it's just because I
When you work in the
did
sport, you can.
because I did too much college. Like I did too much feminist theory interpretation of stuff when I was in college and realized like you can't use this as a metric. And I had multiple professors tell me you can't use that as a metric because it's a bullshit metric basically. That I was like, why are we using this and acting like this is the be all end all of testing whether or not a woman is a well portrayed in a film? Otherwise, they're making great arguments that they are not because they weren't. But also, no one was. No one else was either. Sunny Hayes wasn't that well written either.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, again, if you're listening to the marketing beforehand about authenticity and we work closely, just forget about that. Take that out of your head. Just go enjoy the movie. Go
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's a
I
summer blockbuster. Have a good time, and you
yes.
will enjoy the movie.
I think it is worth seeing. Just in
Yeah,
and of itself in an
also
IMAX theater
in an IMAX
because
theater, I think is really
yes,
important.
do the IMAX theater because of the visuals of that. Absolutely fantastic. I have the same feeling about that as I have at Grand Prix. Grand Prix was amazing. I love that movie. I wish I could have seen that immersively in a theater when it came out because I bet that would have knocked my socks off for the exact same reason. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was not accurate, but it nevertheless delighted me.
Um, Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. Make sure you read all of Elizabeth's articles. She is linked. I'm going to throw your link in there. I do have to peel off. But, Franz, thank you for listening to both of our episodes. Again, thank you for listening to this one. This will be released a little bit later. If you want to watch the movie or you didn't watch the movie and listen to it feel let us know. I was bummed they didn't do more shots like the opener at Silverstone. The pan from the Super Red F1 style intro to the cars was really cool. Yeah, visually, again, stunning.
Yeah.
The score, sorry, I was looking for words. I was like, instruments? The score was really good. The mixing with pop music kind of took me in and out a little bit. I was like, because I like the score, it was dramatic, and then they would have like
Yeah.
some pop, like obviously promoting the album, whatever shit. I was like, okay, this was not a thing.
Yeah.
So it was very, very interesting. And yeah, if you wanted to enjoy it, by all means, you're allowed to. If someone you know didn't like it and they're being respectful about their opinion, just let them dislike it. It's all gonna be okay. And we will see you guys next Tuesday. I will be here on Sunday doing the F1 watch along for Silverstone if you want to watch along. Otherwise, Elizabeth and I will see you in the Discord, and we'll see you next Tuesday talking about all things racing. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
So long, farewell, goodbye, goodbye. I play in F1 DJs. That's funny. Me and Elizabeth are gonna make a true sports car movie, guys. Don't worry.
I I have so many motorsport movies I want to make. I'm not even kidding. It's tough out there.
It's tough out
I
there,
don't
everyone.
know.